I'm Bridget Condon with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. We're now less than 2 weeks away from learning whether the 49ers celebrate their first Lombardi trophy in nearly 3 decades, or if Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs win their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years. Unfortunately, Kansas City defensive end Charles Omenihu won't get a chance to play in Super Bowl 58 after suffering a torn ACL against the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Meantime, the Seahawks and Commanders will interview both the Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald and Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson this week for their open head coaching vacancies, according to NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero. Pelissero also reporting former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith interviewed with the Steelers for their offensive coordinator opening. And the Browns are hiring former Bills offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey to become their next OC. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And in the process, started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. The ugly truth is, when you buy a timeshare, you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. I recently helped a couple that had their maintenance fees go from $800 to $3,200 a year. They also received a $4,000 assessment for a hurricane that was over 1,000 miles away. Sound crazy? The crazy thing is, this never ends. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. Call 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
What's going on? 6 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Titans have been busy talking to 3 different candidates for the OC job. Nick Holes, the Jags passing game coordinator, Eric Studsville, the Dolphins running back coach, and Thad Lewis, Bucs quarterback coach. They've also retained Shane Bowen's rights for the time being, despite interviewing Ravens defensive back coach Denard Wilson for the defensive coordinator position. From one Harbaugh to another, the Chargers have hired their general manager, Ravens director of player personnel, Joe Horitz. Joe has been with the Ravens since '98 when he started as a personal assistant. The Baltimore Lifer is heading to the West Coast. And a big blow to Kansas City. Chiefs defensive lineman Charles Omenihu tore his ACL during Sunday's AFC Championship game versus Baltimore. Omenihu had 7 sacks in 11 games this season and a strip sack of Lamar Jackson on Sunday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Tuesday morning, and we are off and running on a brand new edition of RKW. We are brewed up by 8th and Roast, and mark the day, January the 30th, the first day of NFL draft conversation on this radio program and many others. We've got Ramon Foster live with us from Mobile. That is where he is through Thursday for the 2024 Reese's Senior Bowl. Robert Walsh back at the controls. Kayla Anderson. My name is Will Bowling. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV as well as the 104.5 The Zone app. We are dividing and conquering for the next 3 days. Good morning, everyone. How are we?
Good.
Hey, good morning, good people.
How was the drive?
Man, it wasn't bad. We made it here in good time. I don't want to say record time, in good time, okay? Because we were abiding by the rules of the law and everything, okay? As far as I know, we got through unscathed. So it was real good, straight down. When you leave at like 9 o'clock from any major city, you're right behind the traffic. So ran into nothing in Birmingham, ran into nothing down by Tuscaloosa. We were good to go all the way down and got to Mobile at about 3 o'clock. So 9 to 3 ain't bad, is it, y'all?
Not at all. Did you drop any tributes or offerings to the departed Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa as you passed through?
I did not. I thought about him real quick, and then I forgot about him. Does that work?
That works. No need to put too much thought into it.
So unlike Kalen DeBoer, who will be unable to forget about Nick Saban, considering he'll be hovering over him all the time, you forgot about Nick Saban as you passed through Tuscaloosa.
I did, man. But, of course, the ghost of Nick is always around, man. I say that like he's not still here. Heck, he's still here, okay?
That's right.
Even I got to stop
alive.
saying that. But I got some stories a story yesterday about how Coach Saban would show up to the Senior Bowl. And apparently it was a Bear Bryant type of move, too, that he do. But, you know, the Senior Bowl is held down here in Mobile, obviously, okay? And in Alabama, for the people that have an Alabama education. Sorry, I'm joking. Never mind. But he would show up, police escort, 2-3 cars from what I heard, pull up on the track, and when he hopped out of his designated car, people would just go crazy because he's the president of Alabama. So that was real fascinating to hear how big of a legend he is, man. And again, as much crap I'm gonna talk as far as being a Vols fan, I understand what Nick Saban meant to college football and also to the state of Alabama. So, and the SEC, you got to throw all that in there. I'm not going to dismiss all the stuff that he did, but hearing him show up with police escorts to the Senior Bowl and then he gets like a standing ovation when he get out of the car, that's some legendary stuff. I don't care who you are and how much you dislike this dude. He is a legendary type.
Fair enough. 615-737-1045, our number. We say draft discussion starts this morning because, well, Ramon Foster is in Mobile. The Senior Bowl begins draft conversation. And as they say in their model, as our motto, as our friend Jim Nagy always says, the draft does start in Mobile. So this really does feel like the official point where we can talk about legitimate prospects, one of them who is supposed to be there, who is not there, for reasons we can discuss later, in Tennessee running back Jalen Wright, and really look at the first evaluation process for a new structure of Tennessee Titans football. And Ramon, I understand you guys for the OTP and Titans Radio got to sit down with Titans Director of Football Operations Chad Brinker yesterday.
Oh my gosh, y'all! When this OTP comes out, on Titans Radio. To come out, of course, it's a podcast, so you got to go on the app or go to TennesseeTitans.com. Hear me out, y'all. It is by far one of the most informative, eye-opening, deep conversations about their operations and their plans for this team and how they visualize this team I think you're ever going to get. Chad Brinker broke it down to us, and I think it's right at an hour of conversation that we had with him, and every single question, every single answer that he gave was detailed. He's a super smart dude, but he's a football guy. I think you're going to hear this term thrown around a lot as far as, like they're progressively, jumping into technology, the AI stuff that they do and how they go about, evaluating guys. Like he broke it down. He went to the Kellogg School of Business at Northwestern and it opened his mind on how to navigate scouting, navigate people. It is – I'm telling you, we sat there in awe of the conversation, but it was an understanding conversation. It wasn't like he was talking over our heads. It wasn't like it was, they got nerds in the building. No, their genesis and what they're doing is aggressive football, but maximizing everybody's attributes. And, of course, he broke down there's exceptions that you give with how you view certain players. And one of the breakdowns he gave was about Devontae Adams. And it was a matter of him losing 2 pounds to extend his career. Like, that's how deep it got for him and what they expected of him. But the absolute background of everything they do and will be doing is football pureness. So don't think it's, when you hear all the stuff that they're incorporating on how they break down players and just the physical therapy of it and tracking of players and stuff like that is, they're killing my football. It's a bunch of people that are involved in science in the game. No, it just really gives a full umbrella understanding. Everything's under the same umbrella in-house. And I'm telling you, I was amazed, and I've been around a lot of football talk and have a lot of football conversation about this same type of stuff. But it'll let you know, too, why the change had to be made if you hear this conversation and why this franchise should be better. And, of course, he acknowledged it's going to take time. But when this episode dropped, I think most people should listen to it, if not all Titans fans.
So for those people who don't really understand the ins and outs of the Senior Bowl, and we were down there last year, so we kind of were able to pick up on what happens, with some of the coaches that are down there or the general managers. From what I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are not down there. So who is down there for the Titans representing, and what's kind of the duties they're tasked with this week with the Senior Bowl participants?
Chad Brinker and Anthony Robinson are here. And, of course, they got most of the office here also. And Rand and Coach Callahan are back hiring coaches and handling everything on that end, interviewing coaches and whatnot. But as it goes down here, they are in true evaluation. Guys they hadn't seen in person, guys they want to see go up against certain dudes that are available at this camp. This is where the true on-field evaluation of, hey, you may be a fringe first-rounder. Well, guess what? We'll see you go up against this guy we know is a first-rounder on the other side. And there's a lot of good quality players here. So they get an opportunity to meet with the coaches and front offices for the teams that have their guys here. They can interview with media. They can do a lot of things here. It's almost like a mini combine with football installed in it. So it's a lot of the pre-combine things that you can get done. As far as on field, Kayla, that's where it's going to be for the most part this week. And, of course, playing the game on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, too. It's deeper than just showing up and running. No, this is football stuff to where guys who may be from a mid-major school will now get an opportunity to go up against somebody that's from the Big 12 or the SEC or something like that, just to see how they compete, because that's the thing about it. It's a matter of how you look against your peers, because when you go to the NFL, the mid-major SEC doesn't matter. It's can you play ball or can you not play ball? And we saw that last year, right? Mm-hmm. Tajay was competing high, and he was one of those top 100 picks this last year.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the discussion this morning. Coming up, take a look at 3 prospects at the Senior Bowl that Ramon Foster has bookmarked for us. One of them is the athletic freak to me of the NFL draft. Point blank, any position. And interesting to take a look at a couple of prospects that Ramon will be watching in person down in Mobile that we can look at as potential Tennessee Titans. Austin Price joins us for his weekly conversation with us, courtesy of All Quested on 3 at 8:20. And Ron Slay of 3HL and SEC Network joins us at 9:20. Reports last night about a couple of staff interviews the Titans have, or one that is in-house. As Paul Kaharski writes last night, that his current understanding is that the Titans are holding on to Shane Bowen as they assess outside possibilities for defensive coordinator after interviews with the Giants and Jaguars. And we halfway joked about it, but really did mean it last week when we said, if Brian Callahan's motto, like he told us, is to look for a defensive coordinator that he had trouble scheming against, Shane Bowen fits into that category, considering Shane Bowen had quite a bit of success against Brian Callahan Bengals offenses.
Yeah,
so fans are going to freak out about that a little bit, but I don't think that's that far-fetched of an idea for him on his first staff.
It's not, and that's a deeper conversation I know we're going to have here, but not everything was bad in the building, and he called a heck of a game against them, and for the most part of this year. So, I mean, injuries played a huge part. You don't just lose games because you're bad. There's a lot of different ways you lose games in the NFL.
615-737-1045. When we come back, which Titans offensive lineman from last season, not named Peter Skoronski, is most likely to start the season in the starting five this upcoming fall, with offensive line prospects taking the field in Mobile that Ramon and many others are watching? What are the positions that we feel like are most likely to be filled by the incumbents and by the players who are a part of an offensive line that was not great, but might have some pieces you can work with from this past fall? We'll get into that. Streaming live at 104.5 The Zone TV and the 104.5 The Zone app. We're back to continue hour one next.
It's Ramon Foster, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, y'all. Listen, if you need any of those things done to your house, simply go to happyhiller.com. I know a lot of people don't like to be on the phone. Well, they make the website easy for you. It's happyhiller.com because once you use their service, you will be happy after. It's the same way that I am. And that's because they use professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians that come into your home and they leave it clean and better than they found it, because care is their core value, okay? They believe that when you care about others, everybody wins. It's almost like they took my motto right there. Everybody eats, man, but they believe in that, okay? Because they're going to take care of the customer on every job, every single time. And that starts with their true transparency pricing, too. And that means this. Hiller will line item every part of the job up front so the homeowner can easily understand what they're doing for their home and what they're paying for and why, okay? So if you need anything done to your home, whether that's plumbing, heating, cooling, or electrical, reach out to the people that I trust at happyhiller.com.
Tuesday morning on RKW is brewed up by 8th and Rose, 615-737-1045, our number, and streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Twitch, please.
Crossing state lines for that one, courtesy of Ramon Foster, who is in Mobile this morning, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, and myself in studio. Welcome back to Robert as well.
Welcome back.
As he
Welcome back, Bird.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
wakes up again.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah, I figured we can wait till later in the morning to have our debrief
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
if we want to on the AFC Championship game. But that might just be us talking over you, just sitting there shaking your head at us.
Yeah, well, we was very respectful, just so you know, Bert.
You were not.
I heard
very
Buck text you, though.
Buck on. I ain't got nothing to say.
And
to
then
nobody.
he didn't even understand, like,
Kayla,
the
like
word
I said,
you
we would
used.
wait till 8 a.m. to
Sorry,
make Robert
I just-
angry at us.
I just thought it
Yeah.
was funny that he didn't understand the word that
You
Robert
got to
used.
at least feed them first or do something, okay? Like do something nice before you start talking
No,
about
okay,
that.
Buck is such a goober.
There we go.
This
Thank
dude
you.
texts
exactly what we
me.
wanted.
He texts me, "How are you doing?" I mean, like, dude, okay, if your cat got run over, how would you be doing? I said, "I am a Hall." He said, "I don't know what that is." And I should have quit talking to him right there. The problem is I've got to see this dude every single day. And you can't get away from this stuff because we work in it. And I walk in it. And I live in it. And I breathe in it. And I can't stop talking about it. I have to live with it. And you go to the airport and you sit next to every Chiefs fan and not one of them are happy to be going. It's like a Christmas present. It's like a birthday present. They just expect it at this point. Nobody's thrilled to be there. You know where I'm thrilled to be? Right here. Not having to talk about sports while everybody else has a ball.
Fair enough.
That's great.
Once again.
Say
Now this is something we deal with in hour one now.
I'm awake.
Hey,
I'm
Bert,
awake, so.
we can jump them if you want to. Like, I'm serious now. Like, whatever you want to do, I'm with, okay? However you want to go about this thing. Friday morning, me and you can plot, okay? I just need you to know I'm with you, and we got enough bail money that if it goes rogue, we'll be fine, okay?
The problem is, if Jumpin' Buck would have done something, I would have done it a long time ago.
That's fair.
That's okay. That's fair.
That is very fair.
We'll leave it at that then.
615-737-1045 is our number. Good conversation with Keith Bullock yesterday about a number of topics. He kind of took a flamethrower to Traylon Burks at the end of this discussion as well. But we asked Keith about his free agent wish list for the Titans this upcoming offseason. And it was interesting that he brings up the Titans need one free agent offensive lineman, at least, right? Veteran offensive lineman, teach the younger guys the way if you're going to draft perhaps at least two offensive linemen. This is what Keith had to say yesterday, talking about this and a number of Titans players who he feels like should or should not be in prominent roles next year.
If they can lock T. Higgins in, I just go ahead and lock that in because in T. Higgins, and you need an anchor on the O-line, I feel. I feel like Peters, you just got Radens, I believe. Isn't that the guy they just brought in last year from free agency?
No,
Brunskill was Brunskill and
yeah.
Dillard were the two from free agency last year.
Dillard. All right. Well, what I do know is you need to bring in somebody that's a dog. At the offensive line. I don't care if he's in year 10, year 11. I don't care if he's only going to give you 12 games a year, and it's the first 12 games of that year, because what that person that comes onto that online with experience that has mauled a bunch of guys in the NFL, he's going to bring attitude and teach these guys how to be professionals, how to approach their job, how to get after defenses, how to work as a unit, as a chain. And be able to protect Will Levis so he can get it downfield to T. Higgins. So I think, or whatever standout wide receiver, you need a playmaker to complement DeAndre Hopkins, because Traylon Burks ain't it for me. Yeah. Y'all say what y'all want, what you got to say, but, it would have already showed. I don't see no hunger. I don't see much, no passion towards it. Everybody's hurt in football. Sometimes you got to get healthy, and when you're healthy, pretty much, excuse my language, you got to show your ass as a first-round draft pick. And, we haven't seen that from him yet. So I know they need another playmaker to complement Tajay Spears. The jury is yet. I don't want to call Will Levis a dog yet, but he has it in him. Like, he has it. He's like, ruff, ruff, ruff. He has it in him, though. He definitely has it in him. I had the opportunity to meet the young man and just have a very, regular, candid, just talk. Oh, Will Levis, what's up? Keep and just chopping it up and just, hearing him talk as a person and the questions he asked me. And, he definitely wants to be the guy everybody wants him to be. And it's not one of those things that, he doesn't talk it, but you can just kind of sense it. Ramon, you guys have been around people like that. So
right.
I hope, it works out for him that way.
I love the line on Will Levis. Like, we know he's a dog, we just don't know what kind of dog yet. Like, he could just be like the little frou-frou, not really much of a guard dog. Or he could be a Rottweiler who will protect you from whatever you need. But it brings up the conversation about offensive linemen you could also bring back in order to determine what your needs are. Before we get to that, though, guys, is Treylon Burks' trade conversation a legitimate conversation this offseason?
I don't think it starts yet. And, anything can surprise me at this point with this team because it's new and the staff is new and Rand Carthon is in charge now. And that's not his guy, technically. So anything can happen, and I don't think that would surprise me. I just don't think they're going to give up on him quite yet. I think they're going to give him one more year to see if he can do anything under this system with this new staff, with this offensive scheme. If he can't, he's gone. And there's not even, I think, a doubt in my mind after this season if he can't produce and can't stay healthy. Like, he's not here.
Yeah, Bully's conversation was telling, especially from his side. Just hearing him say that out loud. I do judge guys on what they do on their first and second year. You got to see some type of, professionalism, and you got to see some type of hope in the fact that they're gonna develop some. I'm almost of the mindset that they may end up having to move on because I've been saying this for a while. They need more picks. Like, they can't be foolish with this free agency money. Like, everybody's bragging on how much money they have, but here's the thing: you can't blindly spend it. If you're gonna rebuild or reset a team, it has to start through the draft. It does, because those are the guys that you bring in that fit your mold and model of what your expectations are, and you can also teach them everything too. I ain't saying Treylon's far gone. I think he's far from that. Absolutely far from being gone. I do think the level of professionalism to continue on throughout the season is necessary. And I know that hit in Pittsburgh really set him back. It really did. And I thought he came in camp in shape. I thought he ran well. And then he had the knee issues and stuff like that. And it threw him off. If he can't stay on the field in camp, or if something goes on in the OTA period of this year, that has to, start ringing bells for him. And he may have one more year, but I'm of the mindset if somebody will take him, you probably do offload him. If somebody will take him for a decent pick, yes, make that move.
Who's going to take him? He hasn't done anything.
Somebody would take him for a swap of some day 2 or 3 picks. Like, that's when you send Treylon Burks in a 6th for a 5th. Or you send Treylon Burks in a 7th for a 6th. Like, his value is low.
Super low. But
at the same time, in an offense now that's going to need to carry more wide receivers because they're going to play more wide receivers in the game, a guy like that who gives you no special teams and is just sitting there on the roster, available on game days, like I'm inclined to go ahead and move on for that reason, because you have more of a need at wide receiver now, and every guy you can have in that room is critical. However, you're not really saving any money by getting rid of him now. The financial part of it is irrelevant, because if you traded him before June 1st, you have a $3.8 million cap number and only $100,000 in savings, which is nothing against the salary cap. If you did it after June 1st, you'd save $2 million in 2024. And you'd basically split a $3.8 million cap charge over the next 2 seasons. I don't think they would do it. However, with the gap that they have in draft picks in the middle of their draft, it would not surprise me at all.
But you're not getting a third rounder for him, and that's where they're really missing. They don't have a pick in the third round. That's huge.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating about you saying I'm not having a third rounder is this too. Listen to Jim Nagy on a couple of podcasts. Coach Mack and myself were listening to on the drive down. they made it apparent, like, the back end of this draft, because so many juniors went back to school because they did either get the Senior Bowl nod early, or they had to have a surgery, or the idea that they can get more NIL money. Like, some of these guys, I don't think people understand, are getting rookie contracts for one more year in college. So the back end of this draft, which the Titans have more back end draft picks, you got to either be really good at picking your guys, or he even said it in the conversation, Jim Nack of the Senior Bowl, you need to package up as many first, second, third, and fourth round draft picks as you possibly can. So if you got 3 6s, or how many it is, 2 6s and 3 7s, or whatever the Titans have at this point, if you can move a player and package a deal, you might want to front end this draft class as much as you possibly can because of the quality of guys that did go back to college this year.
615-737-1045 is our number. Who is the most likely offensive lineman on the starting 5 this past season, not named Peter Skoronski, who is most likely to be back? I've got PFF numbers, sacks allowed, pressures allowed, and contract numbers for all of these guys. So let me run through your options very briefly, and we'll talk about the one player who is most likely to be back. Let's start with Chris Hubbard. On the right side, we'll go right to left on the offensive line, as Mike Keith would say, as you listen to your radio dial. And start on the right side of the offensive line in Chris Hubbard. Free agent this offseason, just a one-year deal, 292 pass block snaps because of injury, was out for a number of games down the stretch. 4 sacks allowed, 69.0 PFF grade, had a sack allowed every 73 passing snaps. So there's Chris Hubbard. Right guard, Daniel Brunskill, still has time left on his deal. If you let go of him before June 1st, you would save $2.8 million against the cap, and you would only have a $500,000 dead cap number. 2 sacks allowed in 449 pass block snaps, a 67.1 PFF grade. All right, so there's Hubbard and Brunskill. Dylan Radins, right tackle / right guard, maybe right guard / right tackle. The guy played everywhere last year. 85 snaps at left tackle, 166 snaps at left guard, 19 snaps at right guard, which I think most feel like is his best position moving forward, and 504 snaps at right tackle. Had 11 penalties, Dylan Radins did this season, which is unacceptable. It's not good. But in 455 pass block snaps, he allowed 5 sacks, 36 pressures. That is a sack every 91 passing snaps. So that's a little bit better than Chris Hubbard was playing out of position. Radins as a guard who was playing tackle. Then you have Aaron Brewer, free agent once again, ranked 44th out of 57 eligible centers, according to PFF in pass blocking, a 52.5 pass block grade, but had a 78.7 run blocking grade. 622 pass block snaps for your center, allowing 6 sacks. All right. Andre Dillard. Look, we have to put somebody in there. Left tackle. He's not going to be back. But just so everyone knows the financials of when the Titans release Andre Dillard, a pre-June 1st release gives you a $7.7 million dead cap number, and you save $2.8 million. So getting rid of Andre Dillard saves you the same money as getting rid of Daniel Brunskill. If you did it after June 1st, though, you could spread out that dead cap number over the next 2 seasons and save $6.4 million in 2024, which I would not expect them to do considering they have such a little amount of dead money this year. You might as well just go ahead and eat all of it this year. He allowed a sack every 27.6 passing snaps. That is atrocious. 12 sacks, 41 pressures, and 331 pass block snaps. And then Jalen Duncan, rookie. Of course, he's not going to get cut because of money. If he did, it's because he's just not good enough. Allowed a sack every 23 passing snaps, the worst of any Titans offensive lineman, allowing 9 sacks over 207 pass block snaps, a 32.9.
And are we assuming
grade.
Nicholas Petit-Frere is just back, or is he not in that mix?
I did not have him in the
Okay.
starting 5. That is why I did not
Okay.
list him. So he did not play enough for me to say that he'd be a starter to start the season. But, I mean, we can put him in there as well if we want to throw Nicholas Petit-Frere.
I just want to make sure his name doesn't
To
go
me,
forgotten
he
at
is
this
so
point.
far off the radar that I genuinely didn't even think about him. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't completely agree with that, but
Okay, why not?
I feel like last year was an awful time for all of what happened to him to happen. And look, he shot himself in the foot, no doubt about it, with the gambling suspension. But when you came in your rookie season and Dylan Radins was expected to be the right tackle and you beat out Dylan Radins because you were better than Dylan Radins, who was a second-round pick, by the way, you needed to have that room to grow the next season in your sophomore year. And you needed to have the ability to be healthy. Unfortunately, he shot himself in the foot with the, suspensions, was not able to start the season. When he came back, I don't think you could judge much off of what he was able to do just because of the inconsistencies of the line as it was. Excuse me. Also, because of the then injury he suffered, not too long after that. So it was just the point that he wasn't on the field enough to be able to, learn from that first year. And I know that a lot of people didn't think he was great his first year. I don't think he was like the most awful thing, though. I still feel like there is ability there, whether that be at right tackle or wherever they might want to put him. I think it's probably more on the right side, but I don't think we should completely X out his name.
So then real quick, just to put his numbers on paper as well. Nicholas Petit-Frere last year only played 66 pass block snaps and allowed 3 sacks and 11 total pressures.
Yeah.
So 3 sacks and 66 snaps. That is a sack every 22 passing snaps, albeit with a very small sample size, and that is worse than Jalen Duncan was this past year. Ramon?
Sheesh. Oh, wow. Again, the best ability is availability, and he's X'd himself out a lot. The rookie year was a big learning year for NPF. Absolutely was. And he, like Kayla said, shot himself in the foot. If he's also under new regime. He's got to overprove himself now for the guys they're actually looking at that are their types of dudes. Did I think he had a high ceiling? Yes. Do I think he still has an opportunity to go prove himself? Absolutely. But if he can't prove to stay on the field or stay out of that trouble, which I think he will when it comes down to the trouble stuff, he just missed that second year leap of growth. And that is crucial right there, especially with a new system. But here's the thing. He's got the body type, he's athletic, and he's still young enough to where you can mold and craft him depending upon whoever his O-line coach is going to be in this new coaching. So, Adam, I don't want to crown him as a starter considering he has an incomplete season. That's not to say that he won't be good, but I feel like these guys that are on the roster right now are somewhat expedited. When you change coaching staffs and when you move into different areas and stuff like that with a new team, like you really are resetting everything about what they need from you. It's not like a position coach. This is a head coach change who is also your offensive play caller. I think he's capable, but he missed a huge second year of evaluation. And if they bring in anybody else, albeit free agency or through the draft, he's in the same pool with the Sharks that are trying to get the same stuff that he wants.
So is that your pick, Kayla, NPF, is the guy most likely to come back as a starter?
No, that was just somebody you hadn't listed, so I wanted to make sure he was in the mix.
Sure.
I honestly think if you're going to have a veteran come back, I'm looking at the free agency market right now. We can go over this at another time. I mean, it's not a ton. It's not a ton of stuff. So Daniel Brunskill, if you're asking me, I know he's had some injuries, but I feel like when he's out there, he's the toughness that you need. He's the veteran that you want to at least have one of those on that line. I'm okay with bringing Daniel Brunskill back. And I think a lot of the guys go to him for advice, at least from what I've heard in the locker room. So give me him.
I see Ramon nodding his head, so I imagine I know his answer to this now as well. But when we come back,
you'll be shocked.
All right.
You're going to be shocked.
Well, that's a tease from the radio professional in Mobile, Ramon Foster. We'll get to that coming up. Ramon's pick on the offensive lineman who should come back for the Titans this upcoming season, and a question on Twitter about a scenario involving one of these guys changing positions to maybe find themselves a role on the starting five. We'll go through that as well next.
Guys, it's a new year and Low T Center can make it a great one, okay? If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have noticed a lack of motivation and drive, have weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels, okay? At Low T Center, they can make it easy to get your levels checked. It's a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in 25 minutes. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office either. It's a concierge medicine for men. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone and have been exclusively treating men for years with most health insurance accepted. And they have affordable and convenient treatment options, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that can ship directly to your home each month. So there's no need to drive to the center for a weekly visit. Right now at Low T Center, it's only $25 to get your T levels tested. Make your health and quality of life a priority and make it a great year. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Wrapping up hour number 1 on your Tuesday morning edition of RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast. 615-737-1045, the number, and streaming live on the 1045 The Zone app. Got a beautiful sunrise this morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Looking out the window right now, little pale pink and light blue. Ramon Foster can't see that. He's in Mobile.
Cannot see that, man. I'm seeing the sun come up, but I don't see the view that y'all see. I don't even see the sun shine. I just know it's light outside.
You get 60s, though, this week, I think, right?
I
Lower
do.
60s.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we cross the Alabama line, probably about 20 miles into it, you can tell the temperature changed like instantly. Like the car got hot with me and Coach Mack in there. I was like, oh, man.
It wasn't just you guys.
Nah, it wasn't just the sun was actually shining.
So, Ramon, if there is one starting offensive lineman that is back next season, Kayla says Daniel Brunskill would be her pick before the break. Who is yours?
You going to hate me.
Here it comes. All right, why do you think Aaron Brewer should be back then?
Yeah, you're going to hate me, man. And I got Brewer.
Yeah.
I got Brewer.
Why?
For this case right here, I looked at, of course, the free agency.
Yep.
And free agency doesn't allow you to go get one of those guys. I had some guys on this list that I was looking at. Connor Williams is a center from Miami that's going to be a high ticket. There's a couple other guys out there, actually like Robert Hunt, also from the Dolphins as a guard, but these dudes are going to command this offseason double-digit millions. And, of course, you got to be smart with how you're going to build this thing up. They are in their 20s. I like them both. I like both Robert Hunt and Connor Williams as players. They graded out well. Miami had a good season and all those types of things. But here's the thing about Brewer. As I say, he's my guy I can see being back this year, or I'd like to see back. He played 1,050 snaps. Sometimes building around him with probably a lower price. Building around him with the price point that he's going to come in at, being a recent undrafted free agent too. You can save money right there. He was available. Is he undersized? You can throw that out there, yes. But here's the thing. If he goes harder this offseason and bulk up just a little bit more, it seems to me that Will Levis like him, and the center-quarterback relationship matters a lot. Brewer, to me, was as consistent of an O-lineman despite his deficiencies of size and the sacks that he gave up this year. 6 is what he gave up. I heard you say that earlier.
That's correct.
But to get better as an O-lineman, you have to be out there. When you saw me nodding with Kayla, this close to having Brunskill be my guy. But I can't bring Brunskill back if I don't know if Brunskill's going to be there on the field. Like, he had stuff, and I don't think he came into it with the season, throughout the course of the season with it. He got it during the course and he never could get healthy. And the idea of him being a consistent starter with a high rep into his 30s now is going to be a short-term fix. At least with Brewer, you can get this thing and 2-year deal, man, about 5 a year. Still got money to move around and build up this group. That's just where I'm at.
And you're
you're
exactly right on the market value. Spot Track estimates a $5.2 million average annual salary. They suggest that his market value is 3 years, $15.7 million, which would rank him the 12th highest paid center in the NFL. Is he play like the 12th best center in the NFL, though?
Did he play like it?
No.
No.
the thing with Brewer for me is if you still had Mike Vrabel and that same system around, maybe. I don't think a guy that is going to have to hold up more in just drop back passes in a more passing-centric offense is in your best interest. To me, I'm drafting a center on day 2 or 3, and I'm keeping Daniel Brunskill to put next to that center and to give me stability next to maybe a new right tackle as well.
So you draft them and you're starting. Like, they're going to start.
Brunskill's cheaper than Brewer.
Yeah, he will be.
For better pass protection, albeit with about 170 fewer pass block snaps. So but Ramon mentioned the injuries. That is the number is it was Daniel Brunskill this past season had 449 pass block snaps. Aaron Brewer had 622.
What if you do go get Robert Hunt at right guard? What if you go get him and pretty much protect Brewer to a point? Like, I sit in that world just looking, if I got Peter to my left, I got Joe Alt to my right, I got Robert Hunt to his right. I ain't saying you bulletproof him, but you do bulletproof him as far as the help and needs that he can, get better with. and he's still relatively young.
This was a question we got on Twitter from TGP79. Says Brunskill to center and Radens to right guard. So you have left guard, center, right guard set, NPF and Duncan back, but not starters. And you have a new left tackle and a new right tackle.
I mean, Brunskill is extremely versatile. I don't know how many snaps he's taken at center, though. I mean, I feel like he's a guy who would be willing to do anything. I don't know how much experience he has at that position. But from everything I remember when he was, signed here as a free agent,
Yep,
you can put him anywhere.
Well, and to your point, Ramon, if you're going to bring back a guy who maybe has the athletic traits but wasn't molded into a polished enough pro, that is why there's a new coaching staff here, is to teach and improve people that were not being developed. And you would know better than us, obviously, having played the position, which of these players has the highest ceiling to be molded and to be turned and developed into a pro. And athletically, I mean, there's no doubting that Aaron Brewer was a good run blocker at times last season. I mean, he did have a 78 PFF grade as a run blocker. He was just miserable in pass protection.
It's just the only thing is, I know we're up against the break. The only thing is this, to me, is do you go tackle first round, and then do you go center next round? Because I do see Dylan saying Jackson Powers Johnson. I love him. Okay, I also like Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia.
Yep.
Those are second-round gets right there. It's a matter of where you going to do it, and I always look at the Detroit model, right?
That's right. That's why it's going to take 2 years to build this entire offensive line at this point. 615-737-1045. We've got coordinator interview updates for one Titans offensive coach I shouldn't say Titans offensive coach. One offensive coach the Titans reportedly spoke to last night. We'll tell you about a quarterback mentor who the Titans have spoken with to be their offensive coordinator, plus the latest on a defensive coach who is in-house, or I should say the defensive coach who is in-house, who could be back next season as well, as Hour 2 begins next. What's going on at Swill Bowling? Are you looking to upgrade a damaged garage door or better maintain consistent temperatures in your garage? Well, you can contact the professionals at Lee Company. Their expert technicians have you covered for all your garage door services. And right now, you can get up to $750 off a replacement and installation of a new garage door. That's right, $750 off. So give them a call at 615-567-1000 or visit them online at leecompany.com/promotions. And while you're there, take a look at all the great offers Lee Company has. You've heard me talk about all the different kinds of services that they provide, from HVAC, plumbing, electrical, garage doors. They will do it all for you. So if you've got a damaged garage door, maybe you just want to maintain better temperatures inside that garage, call the pros at Lee Company. And remember this number for anything you need in your home or as a business owner. 615-567-1000. Easy to remember, and it's going to be a big help to you. 615-567-1000 or visit them online at leecompany.com/promotions. That's Lee Company. All you need.
7:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Titans have been busy talking with three different candidates for the OC job. Nick Holes, the Jags passing game coordinator, Ed Studsville, the Dolphins running back coach, and Thad Lewis, the Bucs quarterback coach. They've also retained Shane Bowen's rights for the time being, while also interviewing Ravens defensive back coach Denard Wilson for the defensive coordinator position. From one Harbaugh to another, the Chargers have hired their general manager, Ravens director of player personnel, Joe Horitz. Joe has been with the Ravens since '98 when he started as a personal assistant. The Baltimore Lifer is headed to the West Coast. And a big blow to Kansas City Chiefs defensive lineman Charles Omenihu tore his ACL on Sunday's AFC Championship game versus Baltimore. Omenihu had 7 sacks in 11 games this season and a strip sack on Lamar Jackson on Sunday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 starts right now on a Tuesday morning edition of RKW. We are brewed by the best coffee in Nashville at 8th and Roast, with locations on 8th Avenue, Charlotte, the airport, and the Broadview at Vanderbilt. 8th and Roast Coffee cultivates community by the cup. And you can find your favorite retail bag in every local Kroger and Whole Foods in Middle Tennessee as well. 615-737-1045. If you missed our conversation on the Titans offensive line and who is most likely to be back, you can find that wherever you download podcasts the second the show ends at 10 a.m. every morning. Hours 1 through 4 posted there for your listening pleasure, with lots more still to come this morning. Austin Price at 8:20, Ron Slay at 9:20, Ramon Foster with us in Mobile, Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is our number. Ramon Foster lighting the Twitter streets ablaze this morning by saying he still believes in Aaron Brewer. Good way to get the people going. Wake him up a little bit, Ramon.
It ain't no believe. I believe in the fact that he can get better. I believe in the fact that if you surround him, you make him better, or you minimize his deficiencies.
That's right.
And the best way to say this is this, too. If I can say, in the NFL and all pro sports, and heck, in all sports in general, coaches need to know what, y'all. What am I getting the moment you walk through the door, on the field, on the basketball court, the diamond, ice hockey, whatever the case may be? Right? I need to know what I'm getting, because if I know what I'm getting, then I know how to coach around it, coach through it, or protect you. If you're telling me that of all the guys that play for the Titans this year and almost for the last 2 years, that it shows that Aaron Brewer has a level of availability that nobody else has despite his size, then it may be better to hold on to that, because I know I'm going to have him each and every Sunday or Thursday or Monday night. And if Will Levis is comfortable with them, and if Peter Skoronski takes that second-year jump, and if you go get you a free agent right guard at a premium, because most people that hit free agency, you're going to have to pay for. And if he shows that he does well, okay, and if I can get that left tackle that everybody's dreaming of with Joe Alt, and whether it's NPF or somebody else, I told you guys, when it come down to the O-line, give me 3 and give me 2 dudes that can hold their own. Give me 3 and the other 2 that can hold their own. Look at the groups that are in the Super Bowl right now. They got 3 studs and 2 dudes that are holding their own. That's essentially what this Titans team need. And Brewer, to me, has been the most available guy that this franchise has had in the last 2.5, 3 years, even at left guard last year. Or 2 years ago. You ain't got to agree with me. You asked my opinion, good people.
I did. Well, you did.
I think the reality is, it's just, this is where the Titans are at. This is what happens from poor drafting, with Isaiah Wilson failing, with Dylan Radins not really being a solid starter, at least in that year 2. And guess what? You could have then drafted your center last year. Like, this is what happens when you continue to put yourself back. And now you're looking at what the hell's out there in terms of a center. There's not anything really. And if you want to go first pick left tackle, second pick center, like Will was mentioning, that's fine. But do you know how many other needs this team needs?
Well, I wouldn't go second pick. I was saying day 2 or day 3, just in general.
There's just so much that this team needs, though, you know?
Ian Rappaport writing 1 minute ago, NFL Network writer, that the Packers requested to speak with Ravens secondary coach Denard Wilson for their vacant defensive coordinator job. He is also interviewing with the Titans today for their defensive coordinator job, and the Rams and Giants have talked to him as well. So that is confirmation. The Titans will speak with the Ravens secondary coach today, a guy who has familiarity with Rand Carthon, and will bring some perspective into that conversation. Paul Kaharski reporting last night that his understanding is the Titans are holding on to Shane Bowen as they assess outside possibilities for defensive coordinator, essentially meaning that he's not going anywhere else yet and remains perhaps a candidate for that position. Last night, Kimberly Martin of ESPN reported that the Titans interviewed Buccaneers quarterbacks coach Thad Lewis for their offensive coordinator job. That was yesterday. The Bills and Raiders have also interviewed Lewis for their offensive coordinator opens. UCLA guy, like Brian Callahan, after 2 seasons as an offensive analyst at UCLA, he joined the Bucs as an intern in 2020, promoted to assistant wide receivers coach in 2020, and he became the quarterbacks coach before the 2023 season.
Hey, can I have a second real quick?
You may
I heard
have a
everything
second.
you said. Can I have a second just real quick? Because you took me down this rabbit hole, Will, further than I wanted to go, okay? And the crowd did too, and I love this type of stuff because now we get to talk about numbers real quick, okay? Some people hold PFF law, right? They do. What they say somewhat matters in the world of how you analyze players.
Pro Football Focus, yep.
Pro Football Focus. I told you need 3. So I looked at Kansas City's O-line, right, with Patrick Mahomes. I know that plays a deal. The 3 studs that they have is Trey Smith, Creed, and Joe Thuney.
They drafted 2 of those. They signed 1.
Yes, sir. Right. You know what their tackles have graded out on PFF this year?
Probably not great.
A 54 overall for Donovan Smith and a 52.1 for Jawan Taylor, who they paid a bag for.
That's true.
So I told you need 3, and the others hold their own somewhat.
Yeah, but Patrick Mahomes can cover up a lot of the sins you have up front.
You ain't wrong.
The way that guy can get rid of a rusher in his face, Will Levis does not have that capability at this point. Not many quarterbacks other than Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes can get away from a free rusher off the edge the way those 2 can.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong at all. I'm just telling you what I've seen it and how it somewhat shakes out. You can't have 5 Pro Bowls. You can't have 5 studs. The cap ain't going to allow you to. I'm going to look up the 49ers grades and who they have also when we get opportunity. We got a format we're going to run this show. So I'm going to get back on what we got going on here, okay? But there's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I'm going back to these offensive possible coordinator candidates in terms of what Kimberly Martin was reporting. I think you mentioned Thad Lewis.
Yep.
I like this guy. I like the fact that he's been with the wide receivers. He's been with the quarterbacks. He's been with, obviously, as a player. He was in the league, 7 years or so? So this is a guy who's kind of done a different array of things. And again, it all comes down to Brian Callahan will be running this offense. Like, he will be the play caller. He needs to have somebody who understands his philosophy, who can be able to communicate that to the players on the offensive side of the ball. Because, again, he's going to be overseeing this whole team, Brian Callahan is, for the first time. Like, he hasn't ever had those duties. But I kind of like this guy's resume. He's clearly thought of. He's got some interviews, some other places. I like the fact that they're casting a wide net in this situation because they're not just saying, hey, I'm going to have my buddy here. And that's all, right? You're going around and you're interviewing guys with a whole bunch of different backgrounds, with the running backs background, with him, with Thad, with the wide receivers background. So I like the fact that they're at least kind of getting out there and seeing who's going to be the best fit right now.
That is one thing, though. If he ends up with Nick Holtz, his high school buddy, then that's literally just hiring your buddy.
It is.
On offense.
And that's why I'm saying that, Will.
Right.
Like, they need to really make sure they get this right. Absolutely.
I have no problem with hiring your buddies. Your buddies just need to be good at coaching football.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Mike Vrabel's at times were not.
Exactly.
That's why Brian Callahan's the head coach here, and Mike Vrabel isn't in a lot of ways.
These guys are all young, too, by the way.
Yeah, they certainly are. Certainly are. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. Coming up in an hour, Austin Price of VolQuest for his weekly visit at 8:20. Tennessee and South Carolina tonight. And a full breakdown from our very good friend Ron Slay on that as well, coming up at 9:20 this morning. But when we come back, Ramon Foster has given us 3 players he will be watching at the Senior Bowl. Prospects who fill very different spots on your team, 2 of them on offense. One of them is an offensive lineman, but maybe not the name you would expect, in addition to 1 guy on defense as well. Ramon Foster gives us his list next.
It's Ramon Foster for United Structural Systems. And when it comes to large home repairs, a lot of the time we homeowners pretend we don't see the warning signs. We're afraid of what we're going to hear. This is especially true with waterproofing and foundation repair. It could be something big that needs to be fixed right away or a small problem that'll become bigger later. Okay, bottom line is we don't know, and we certainly don't want to be sold something we don't need. What we need is a peace of mind. The United Structural System is the company to give you that. They have over 25,000 100% satisfied residential customers, and here's how they make that happen. When USS comes out to your house, you're going to get a problem solver who provides the peace of mind to their customers. It's you, the homeowner. They're not going to get someone who's worried about meeting a sales quota, upselling the next big thing, but someone there to educate you and help you understand what is happening with your home. At USS, the only measure of success is how satisfied the homeowner is and not a closing ratio. And that's because homeowners trust USS, keeping homes dry and stable for over 25 years. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. You can reach them online at USSTN.com or call them 615-488-7855.
Dividing and conquering this week on RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast. Ramon Foster in Mobile, Kayla Anderson and myself, Will Bowling in beautiful Music City. 615-737-1045, how you join us. Ramon has given us 3 players to research and discuss that he will be looking at very closely this week. As they say, the draft starts in Mobile. More importantly, Ramon, what have you been eating so far in Mobile? Because the food down there is tremendous.
Man, we went to this barbecue spot Mike Keefe recommended last night. He actually heard it on the Dane Brugler's, I think, podcast.
Is it Moe's?
Right, Moe's.
Yep, there you go.
He told us we were going to Moe's, and I was like, where are Moe's? And he's like, no, not that place. Not that place. But, man, I will say, you know, you go to local, like, barbecue spots or regional spots, you're like, man, whatever. The people just love it because it's here. This place is actually pretty good. I had the smoked wings. Fire.
So the smoked wings at Moe's are life-changing. Absolutely life-changing.
It tripped me out.
Yep.
I was like, whatever. You know what else is shocking down here? I don't know what it is, but I don't know if anybody's paid their light bill here. None of the businesses have their like neon signs on. We're driving down the street like, why is it so dark down here, man? It's weird.
That's a thing they preserve, like some cities that are smaller. They did it in Tucson too, where they wouldn't have the big lights. It's like something that they do in these smaller cities to kind of preserve and not to, you know, I guess make it this big thing where they've got the neon lights and all that stuff. That's what I've heard in certain cities. I don't know if Mobile's that way, but sounds like it.
It sounds like somebody grandmama in the back. Hey, turn that light off.
Right? We're preserving energy here.
Yeah, y'all better close my door, letting this AC out. That's what it sounds like.
We'll get to Ramon's 3 prospects he's looking at other than gumbo, etouffee, and wings. Those are 3 prospects Ramon is also looking at down in Mobile
Seafood
this week. But we go to Bam in Nashville. First up on the phone line, 615-737-1045. What's up, Bam?
Yeah, what up, everybody? Feeling all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Listen, can we put a poll together to get Taylor Swift off of football TV, please? Is there any way we could do that?
I don't think there's any scenario of that, unfortunately,
Unless
Bam.
Kelsey and her are going to break up anytime soon.
I wish you would. But more importantly, man, I'm kind of torn in between drafting a wide receiver and this left tackle situation. I desperately know that we need protection. But at the same time, with Callahan coming changing the system, do y'all really think that he really might go wide receiver first over that? And then 2, I know I'm still on this train, but I heard his comments that he said about Henry. Now, is there a world where you think he may want to keep Henry? And I just wanted y'all's opinion on it. You know what I'm saying? If he go to Rand and be like, hey, look, I could utilize him this, that, the next, or do you think they're going to let him go all the way down to the end of the free agency thing? So that was just my idea. So.
Thank you, Bam. Appreciate
Thanks,
the call. On the Henry thing, I think in the words of Burke Nihill last week with us on the show 6 days ago, these are all just buzzwords. Mm-hmm. And Brian Callahan is smart anytime he is speaking about current or past Titans who are, let's say, stars to this fan base, to be respectful in the way he speaks about them. I don't think we have really learned anything about what Brian Callahan will or will not do with Derrick Henry because, honestly, Derrick Henry's needs and desires, I still don't think have changed, right? Be on a team that's competing for a Super Bowl in 2024. So regardless of what Brian Callahan is going to say on or off the record about Derrick Henry, the Derrick Henry part of that also has to match up with what the Titans would want. And I just don't think Derrick Henry is going to be back. I just think Titans fans need to start going ahead and assuming that there is again, less than 10%, maybe less than 5% chance that he's back here next year. And that may be me even being too friendly to his chances of being back.
And at the left tackle thing, sorry, Mon.
No, go ahead.
The left tackle thing, look, in my opinion, you got to do it. Like, you got to start building this line homegrown. You have to do it.
Depends on who's there.
You got to start now. Yeah, and there's a lot of really good tackles that we'll get to also in this draft. But you've got to start building this homegrown because you can also go out and get some wide receivers in free agency, at least one, possibly to add to this roster.
My quick comment on the Derrick thing is Derrick gave you the farewell. How long do you think Derrick can play? And Derrick also gave you his expectation for the team that he's going to be a part of in free agency. He said Super Bowl squad, somebody who's going to compete. Not saying that you can't turn this thing around in 1 year, but it ain't many teams that do, man. So the writing's on the wall. I know it's hard to see your heroes walk out that door, but, man, yeah, I think it's time to move the conversation forward on that one.
It's a new era.
It certainly is. Certainly is a new era. 615-737-1045, our number. We appreciate the question, though. I mean, it is a legitimate conversation, and I'm never going to get on to fans for loving a player who led you to an AFC championship game, who did quarterback-like things as a running back, meaning there are not many running backs that can carry you one step shy of a Super Bowl.
Right.
And Derrick Henry did that. That's why he's been the best player at that position in the sport over the last 5 years. But at the same time, this is a very logical moment to move on. And a new head coach even further emphasizes the fact that it's logical to move on. There is no reason for Brian Callahan in any interview or any context to say, yeah, we're probably going to move forward, right? Like, he is losing you as a fan the second he says anything negative about Derrick Henry. Of course the guy, when asked, is going to be positive about Derrick. Like, anywhere that he speaks, it's going to be, yeah, of course. We, interested in having X, Y, or Z player back. I'm sure if you asked him about Daniel Brunskill or Aaron Brewer or Danico Autry, he would say the exact same thing.
And again, I'm reiterating this again. I encourage you all to go listen to when it drops the Chad Brinker OTP with Mike Keefe and us. And it'll give you a deeper breakdown into how they will operate. It's forward thinking on all things football. And here's the other thing, too. Y'all want to hear something? He gave a vision. Mm-hmm. No, I'm dead serious though. He gave the answer to what the vision of this team is and how they're gonna go about it. Again, I'm not gonna, as Kayla say, poo-poo on anybody's crowd, right, or their party. But just go listen to that when it drops, man. I highly suggest you go do that. And as far as Callahan goes, he was a part of a franchise that was trying to choose between Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase,
right? And
they chose Jamar Chase.
Sure did.
Nothing's off the board.
Sure did. All right, Ramon, 3 prospects at the Senior Bowl. Let's start with the big guy because we've been talking a lot of offensive linemen. I had to specify because there is another very big human being in this who is not an offensive lineman, who respectfully is not that much smaller than Aaron Brewer, and this guy's a wide receiver. But we'll get to that coming up in just a moment at the end of this conversation. But, Ramon, talk to me about Oklahoma right tackle Tyler Guyton, who comes into this group of players in Mobile at 6'7", 328. That is what he measured at in Senior Bowl measurements yesterday. Mm-hmm. He allowed 1 sack in his entire college career, but he's only started 15 games. One of the more fascinating prospects at the back of the first round on the offensive line in this class.
Former tight end turned tackle also. I think like Jason Peters was for the Buffalo Bills and for the Philadelphia Eagles. Big body guy, uber athletic guy. And the analysis on him that I've read, and I'll get an opportunity to see him today, is this. He is Tyron Smith-like. Does he have some stuff that he has to work on technically? Yes, he does. Does he have to get better as far as like his bend and his and as far as understanding how to play the position? Yes, he does. But the projections for him is Tyron Smith-like. He can make every move on the field. He's quick with his lower body. He's good with his ability to be in space. He's everything that you want in a left tackle. They will not be surprised if by the end of the draft period, going into the draft, he could move himself up into a top 10 pick. Some have him right now as like a borderline first, borderline second rounder. But most people project him to be one of those get off the bus and start left tackles is how he's viewed down here in Mobile and the conversation around him. His projection is through the roof, and I don't think it's agent generated. I think people are just realizing, we didn't know you guys were doing it like that until you look and evaluate him. So I'm high on the idea that he can be this good. And I know, of course, like you said, Joe Alt and others have been the focal point of this conversation, but there's nobody higher on the list right now than Tyler Guyton.
Real quick with him, and I know everybody that I've kind of read upon that's seen him in person or watched him in person is just the physical traits are unreal, right? And he's just kind of a physical, you're in awe of it. How much, Ramon, in terms of, building this first year, if he were to be a starter, what's kind of the things he'd need to work on? I heard maybe upper body strength a little. How much of a dog is he?
He got the dog in him. It's just he got to understand how to play the position. When you're asking somebody, so it's almost like the choose which devil you want, right? When you're looking at certain things like this, do you believe he can grow? Okay, well, then draft him. Can you train him to be a better run blocker? Yes, we'll draft him then. It's a matter of at the other end, too, and I was having this conversation with Coach Mack just slightly. Coaches are also paid to coach and develop. If this guy has every tool and measurable and has got strong, fierce hands that you need and the willingness to actually learn, give me that guy all day long. If you're already in a rebuild, and he possibly has the highest ceiling of almost any guy in this draft, you take him. Like any guy in the draft is where he is at this point in the conversation.
In 2023, Tyler Guyton saw action in 10 games, played a total of 662 snaps for Oklahoma, allowing 9 hurries, 3 quarterback hits, and no sacks while playing at right tackle. Saw action in 8 games, totaling 311 snaps in 2022. A raw prospect by many accounts who has not played as much and who came out of Manor High School as a 3-star recruit who began his career at TCU, transferred to Oklahoma as a junior. ESPN's initial mock draft, courtesy of Mel Kiper, has him going number 27 to the Arizona Cardinals as of now. Ramon, the comp that I saw elsewhere online last night was actually Darnell Wright for Tyler Guyton. And that was another guy who went to Mobile and started the process of the Senior Bowl as a late first-round projection and was picked at number 10, one pick, correct me if I'm wrong, one pick in front of the Tennessee Titans and Peter Skoronski at 11.
How did that turn out for Chicago this year?
He was good. Darnell Wright was good. He was not perfect. He was a rookie tackle, but a guy that I think Bears fans are glad is on their team.
Yeah. And here's the other thing, too. Coach Max hit me to a term, too. Don't be an IE, instant evaluator.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's going to have to earn it. And if that jump is warranted, I don't know if it's 7th overall, but I'm overly intrigued with what his career can turn into. He doesn't get nervous at the point of attack. None of those things excite him other than just playing ball. And the way watching his tape, too, you can tell he was taught a good technique at Oklahoma because it shows on each and every play on how he's set, where his hands are, and how he attacks. Like, people love using the term, oh, he's so raw. But when you got somebody that actually listens and actually wants to get better and that rawness is actually tapped into, that's what his tape looks like to me. He actually said, oh, man, I can do this, and he's doing it.
Another guy as well who I know the trade back discussion is always an abstract, oh, you just trade back. Well, there has to be a suitor. There has to be someone who can work with what you want, who wants to move up, who has the draft capital to move up. Tyler Guyton is a guy who could go in the middle of the first round, perhaps, if you did find a team desperate enough to move up to 7 to get their quarterback. That is an option for you maybe later in the first round. All right, let's talk about Chris Braswell. Edge from Alabama. SEC fans will know him as a 3-year player for the Crimson Tide. 18 career sacks, ranked 5th in the SEC with 8 sacks in his final college season this past fall. Measured yesterday at 6'3", 257.
Well, I'll say this. If somebody call in and hate this pick, it's probably because of this. Y'all want to know? You remember the second half of the Vols game in Tuscaloosa?
That's right. Yep.
He was the guy that sacked Joe Milton for the sack fumble.
Fair enough.
Yep. He was the one that sparked that thing. So here's the thing behind him, too. He was buried behind Will Anderson last year. Chris Braswell also comes out as a former 5-star guy at Alabama, too. So, of course, they always follow these guys, and he's a guy that, hey, we project him to be this good. I don't know how high he's going to go, whether that's early 2nd or 3rd round pick, but he's a dude to me. Also, I'll say this. He's more of an edge setter, run stopper, and with the ability to pass rush, too. I like the way he uses his hands. He's very violent, man, on how he sets the edge, and he's sneaky because he'll beat you up and then he'll kick you around the edge. I like what I saw on his tape. And, again, if you want to talk about crusher of dreams. Just don't look back at his Alabama tape against the Vols. That second half is where he crushed our dreams, and I went back to my vehicle and drove back to Tennessee.
Yeah, this is a guy, super long arms. Obviously, you were mentioning, kind of as a pass rusher, because he has some speed, right? This is a guy who definitely can get around. So he grades out really well, too, when I was looking at all the grades on this guy. Like, he seems like a legit guy if you paired him up possibly there at, what is it, linebacker here? Edge, yeah. So, I mean, and you can never go wrong with adding an edge. Like, literally on this team, you just need to continue to pump out those guys and bring in some youth at that position, too, because we all know that Rashad Weaver couldn't really live up to that mark, and I don't know who else is really going to be back, so.
Played the jack position for Alabama, kind of that Leo that Tennessee had Byron Young in, and Byron Young has panned out pretty well.
He's been good, too.
For the LA Rams. Let's get to the guy, though, who is just an athletic freak, Ramon Foster, and his name is Johnny Wilson. Wide receiver at Florida State, 6'6", 237 pounds, a wide receiver who, according to Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus, his height is 99th percentile for wide receiver. His weight is 98th percentile. His arm length is 99th percentile. And his arm span, 99th percentile for wide receivers or for tight ends in Johnny Wilson. This guy is a pterodactyl playing the position of wide receiver.
You know why I picked him out? Is because when you see people that have certain traits, but they shy away from showing those traits. Like I always tell my kids, hey, be big, man. You were born with that short. Like, be tall. He's tall, he's big, and he plays like it. He doesn't shy away from the fact that he's 6'6". He go across the middle and catch. He go down the sideline and catch. He does all the things. And I see what Dylan say. He had drops this year. Yes, he did have drops this year. But last year coming into the league, absolutely crushed it. I don't think drops will stick with him. He makes the plays that you have in front of him. When it comes down to him being able to get in space, stride down the field, I like the idea of him being a guy that you can take a look at. I don't know if he's going to fit Brian Callahan's system, but when it comes down to the traits and the toughness too, not just the toughness, but the fact that he's that big going across the middle. I live in that world saying we can scheme him open and use him as a weapon. And I think Florida State did a good enough job of doing that for him in the last couple of years that he's been there. He played according to where the competition was and with his deficiencies and all.
Would you go with a guy like him before a guy, however, maybe that is more of the speed characteristics, Ramon, just because that's something that's been missing from this offense for so long?
Yeah, so let me say this too. When I mentioned these three people that I'll be looking, I looked at them as athletes that I'm intrigued by, and not necessarily that the Titans will actually draft too. These are dudes I think will be freaks when it comes down to how they perform and the expectations that they will have down here against light competition. And if they show well, then you also got to lay your head on the fact that, look, they can possibly help this team. If we're having a conversation about Traylon and potentially if the Titans decide to move on from him, he, to me, is an option. At least I know it's going to get the job done whenever the ball comes his way.
615-737-1045. We'll catch up on your phone calls coming up next. We'll start with Robert, Brian, and Michael when we can get to you coming up. Ramon Foster in Mobile, Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson in Nashville, and you on 1045 The Zone TV as Hour 2 continues next.
Guys, it's a new year and Low T Center can make it a great one. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have noticed a lack of motivation, drive, have weight gain or loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's just a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in about 25 minutes. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office. It's a concierge medicine for men. The physicians specialize in treating low testosterone and have been exclusively treating men for years, with most health insurance accepted. And they have an affordable and convenient treatment option, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to your home each month. So there's no need to drive to the center for a weekly visit. Right now, Low T Center is only $25 to get your T levels tested. Make your health and quality of life a priority and make it a great year. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone. The final On3 Top 100 has been released. Which Vols moved up or down in those final recruiting rankings for the class of 2024? We'll get into that and hit some hoops headlines with Austin Price of AllQuest, who joins us every Tuesday morning at 8:20. Stick around at a half hour for that, or hit the RKW podcast wherever you download podcasts if you miss it. With Ramon Foster in Mobile, Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Robert is in Nashville, first up this morning. What's up, Robert?
Man, how y'all doing, man?
Great.
Oh, good morning.
Man, good. I got two questions for you, man. Two things, man. TSU, man, they just hired the offensive coordinator for North Dakota State. I wonder what y'all thoughts on that. And the second question is, man, what do you think Terrell Allen, the Buck Buchanan Award winner in the FCS, his chance in the NFL draft this year?
Who is that, the FCS player again?
Terrell Allen from TSU. He won the Buck Buchanan Award.
Yep.
The top defensive player.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. Sure. Appreciate the call. On the North Dakota State offensive coordinator, I'd be lying if I told you I could give much insight to that.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Not
Tyler
too much
Roll is the guy who is being brought over.
And by the way, if he's coming from North Dakota State, they see themselves as a major program right now too. So if Eddie's bringing guys over to command his offense, and of course, that's been the biggest thing for TSU is moving them forward and scoring points and those types of things. You make a change like that, man, I would expect from a program like North Dakota State that it would be in the right direction for TSU. TSU deserves the opportunity to compete high, especially having a coach like Eddie in-house and the support that they're getting. I know I have a very prideful fan base when it comes down to how they expect that team to look and be. So good move by Eddie, man. We'll see, of course, just like Brian Callahan here in Nashville, what it turns out to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, North Dakota State is definitely one of the top FCS programs, continues to be. They obviously have taken a little bit of a dip, but this is a team that's won multiple, national titles at that level, and they are a team where I think if you're going to poach coaches and you want maybe somebody who's up and coming, that's definitely a program that I would look into. I feel like Eddie George is a smart man too. Like he's done his research, right?
Yeah,
well, that is his third offensive coordinator in 4 seasons, Eddie George at TSU. So Tyler Roll, the guy who in 5 seasons as the offensive play caller at North Dakota State helped the Bison reach the FCS National Championship 3 times, winning the title in 2019 and 2021. So
it's been there
good pedigree there.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely say that.
As far as the draft for Terrell Allen, the standout for TSU, he will compete in the HBCU Legacy Bowl, or is scheduled to on February the 24th in New Orleans. I think you get more buzz about his draft options there at that point. It's just difficult for a player in a level like that, obviously, to create a lot of draft buzz. I don't see a lot of draft buzz around him in just perusing the internet for a minute. And again, I'll be honest with you, that's a guy early in the draft process who has been off my radar. So I'm not going to speak that I'm an expert on a guy who I'm not yet. But
right.
I think maybe on the outside looking in, just from a 5-minute cursory search over the internet. But that does not make me an expert, of course.
And the thing in this era, too, if you got tape and it's good tape, they will find you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Michael in London is back on the phone lines. Michael, good morning. Good day. Michael, I'm going to be do you know I'm going to be in London this weekend, by the way?
Oh, my God. Not again.
No,
I was going to say, don't tease
message
him.
me on Instagram. I have a day to myself all day Friday.
I'm serving you divorce papers when you come to London. I'm the terrible side chick that's never seen. It's terrible. Terrible.
We didn't get to meet up with him last time, if you're wondering.
We were busy, and then I accidentally slept till 2 p.m. one of the days we were there. So I promise you it was not personal, Michael.
So you coming alone, or you coming with the gang?
I've got just my brother coming with me. Coming for vacation. Arsenal, Liverpool Sunday, West Ham, Bournemouth Thursday. Just going to watch all the football. It's going to be great.
Oh, listen, reach out, man. We get you some tickets and take you out for dinner somewhere.
That'd be great.
Yeah, but that'll be fine. Listen, it's nice to speak to you guys again. I've not spoken to you since all the hoopla about Rabel, but I mean, you guys just not excited for once. Please tell me you're excited. A new coach. We're talking positively about the draft. I think. Just very quickly touching on that, I know you guys you've spoken about it the last 2 weeks, but I'm a bit confused as to why fans were in uproar when Rabel left. I didn't get that because I think I mentioned on your show last year, I think it was week 7 or 8, when I said to you, if we don't have a good season this year, I don't see him coming back. And a lot of people got us crazy then. But the reality of it is when you look at the quality of coaches we've interviewed, those are the kind of guys that you should have brought in rather than the loyalty and the nepotism that happened. But we move on, and I think this new head coach has breathed some optimism, and if he's able to replicate what we did in Cincinnati or what he did in Cincinnati, then that'll be brilliant. I think we got in the draft. I know you guys are in Mobile, so enjoy that. We just need a generational talent, and if that's a quarterback, so if that's a wide receiver, so be it. I think Traylon Burks, with all due respect to him, he might be a victim of one of those guys that Vrabel failed to develop. There are tons of them. Look at some of the guys that went to Detroit and some of the guys that went to Houston. They've ended up playing well. So, I'm not sure if we give him one more year just to show what he could do, or, if we're going to let him go, we're bringing other people that would deliver ASAP. That's what I think we need as a team. I don't know what your thoughts are. So, that's my take on it.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate
Good
the
to
call.
talk with you.
And we may connect somehow. Follow me on Instagram and message me there if that's the best way to connect this weekend. Anyway.
Or just leave your number with Robert. There you go.
Yeah, whatever works. It is a good point that, the reason why Mike Vrabel's not here is because first-round picks weren't developed. I think this is the offseason for many of them. We learn, are those just the wrong picks, or are those guys that personality-wise didn't fit for whatever reason and thrive under a different regime? And we have spent time speaking about Traylon Burks this morning. That, to me, is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Is that guy successful in a different kind of offensive-first head coaching atmosphere?
That's why I think they're going to give him a shot, right? He was a first-round pick, so I feel like you're going to do him at least some justice and give him a shot.
Yep. Yeah, you're probably
Michael
right.
brings up a fair point, too, and we hadn't talked about this enough. The weight of this 7th pick, top 10 needs to be generational.
Easier said than done, but you're right.
I know.
Regardless of the position, it needs to be the highest floor football player.
Yeah.
And that may mean it's not a left tackle. And that's where you go. Coming up next, we'll get to Brian. Phone lines up first. We'll get to Dane Brugler's piece in The Athletic of biggest storylines at the Senior Bowl. There are 2 headliners that are going head-to-head who have been conference foes, but an SEC quarterback that is making headlines not named Joe Milton, of a guy who could help himself the most out of any prospect in Mobile. That and more as Hour 3 starts next.
It's a big Saturday night in Smashville as the Preds return from the All-Star break to begin a 3-game homestand, okay? First up is Saturday, February 10th, as they take on the Arizona Coyotes at 7 p.m. at Bridgestone Arena. You can celebrate Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Night with a special ticket package that includes a ticket and a shirt designed by a local artist. Support local, okay? So get your tickets for the game at NashvillePredators.com/tickets.
What's going on? 801. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Titans have been busy talking with three different candidates for the offensive coordinator job. Nick Holes, the Jags passing game coordinator. Eric, if I could talk today. Eric Studsville, the Dolphins running back coach. Thad Lewis, the Bucks coach. They've also retained Shane Bowen's rights despite interviewing Ravens defensive back coach Denard Wilson for the defensive coordinator position. From one Harbaugh to another, the Chargers have found their general manager. It's Ravens director of player personnel, Joe Horitz. Joe has been with the Ravens since '98 when he started as a personal assistant. The Baltimore lifer is now headed to the West Coast. And a big blow to Kansas City headed to the Super Bowl as Chiefs defensive lineman Charles Omenihu tore his ACL during Sunday's AFC Championship game versus Baltimore. Omenihu had 7 sacks in 11 games this season and had a strip sack of Lamar in the championship game on Sunday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 3 starts right now as the second half of the show begins. Tuesday morning, and a beautiful one in beautiful Music City. Welcome into RKW. We are brewed by 8th and Roast. Go by and see him this morning, whether you're on 8th Avenue, whether you're out near the Nations on Charlotte, maybe you're at the airport or headed that direction. You can go by and see them right there, any of their airport spots or at their brand new location. It is shiny, it is new, and the coffee is outstanding at the Broadview at Vanderbilt. 8th and Roast Coffee cultivates community by the cup. 615-737-1045, our number. Austin Price of All Quested on 3 will join us in 15 minutes. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling with you. Robert Walsh making the show happen. Streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Twitch, please.
Thank you so much.
Was that a recording?
It was not.
No, that was me.
Oh, it sounded like a recording. I was like, he's really getting creative back there.
All the way from Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to go. Interesting storylines at the Senior Bowl. Dane Brugler writes in The Athletic about all of these listed. And number 1 is the battle between Michael Penix and Bo Nix. Who is the better NFL quarterback between those two guys?
You're asking a question right now,
I'm
man.
asking the question right now.
Michael Penix Jr. seems to just have that winner effect to him. You put him in the right situation. He's beat the odds on a lot of things, and Bo Nix has had a similar path. But it just seemed like Michael Penix Jr. squeezed out plays that not supposed to go his way. He has the ability to maneuver and move around. But I also think that Bo Nix might be the better pro. I'm going Michael Penix Jr. If you're telling me it's a duel between the two, I'm going Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've watched a lot of football by these two this year. Love the stories also. Love the fact that they kind of had faced adversity in different ways early on in their college careers and made it a point to not let that kind of define them, and were able to transfer to landing spots where they were able to better themselves, right? Were able to better their game. And I think they're two of the highly, looked at quarterbacks this past season, one making it all the way to the championship game, and probably didn't have his best performance in that game. But I think a lot of the other people that you talked to out there in the semis after that said, hey, maybe he should have won the Heisman. I think overall, if Michael Penix Jr., like Ramon was mentioning yesterday, didn't have as many of the health issues that he's already had early on in his career, I would be confident in saying Michael Penix Jr. in the right place could definitely become a starter in this league. But because of those injuries, it's tough for me to be like 100% on this guy. Because I think Bo Nix has shown, too, that he's grown immensely. And he was in a great system with Dan Lanning and them. Like, he couldn't have asked for a better situation. I think he is a pro, too. Like, I think both of them have the ability to be a pro's pro. I think Michael Penix has a little bit more of the physical traits, able to do more with less type of thing. But I would say just the health-wise, I'm worried about him.
Yeah.
So out of the 7 storylines that Dane Brugler writes about on The Athletic, this is number 1 of as Nix and Penix go head-to-head one last time, what will it mean for their NFL draft projections? And Bo Nix, according to Dane Brugler, is a guy who has a wide-ranging draft projection. Some believe he'll be drafted top 25. Others believe he would still be around in the 3rd round. So he enters the week, according to Dane Brugler, as a possible first-rounder. With a good week, could cement himself as a concrete first-rounder. The narratives around Penix, he says, are different. Was considered a top 10 pick and possible contender at number 1 on social media after his playoff performance against Texas. That's why social media does not scout the NFL draft. Then quickly after his game against Michigan, the best defense he's played, then goes the opposite direction. And, well, maybe not, right? So I think the speculation is that Penix is a top 50 pick and that Bo Nix is anywhere from 25 to 100, which is interesting. So a much bigger range, which is intriguing to me on Nix, just simply because he didn't have the playoff games to either hurt or help his resume. And depending on which playoff game you watched, you could think very different things about Michael Penix as well.
Yeah, I want to mention real quick, Penix, by the way, a year older technically than Bo Nix. He'll turn 24 in September, and Bo Nix 24 again next February. He just turned 23.
And what's unique about their competition this week is they get evaluated as they're both on the national roster together. The quarterbacks for the national roster are Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., and Notre Dame Sam Hartman. And for the American roster, it's Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, Joe Milton, Tennessee, and Michael Pratt, Tulane, just to give more. So they're going to have directly the same amount of the same weapons to use on the national roster as far as Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix.
Dan Brugler writes, by the way, that the quarterback who can make the greatest jump during the draft process is Spencer Rattler.
Yeah. And sorry, he was the one that turns 24 in September. Penix in May. So, but they're all about that age range, right? They're not the super young quarterbacks. That's the only thing I worry about with any of these guys is just, I know it's not old, but in terms of a quarterback and then making them maybe sit for a couple years, it does start to get that way.
I have heard that also, Will, about the Spencer Rattler conversation, to whereas he got killed, of course, social media and, the team that he had in South Carolina and stuff this year. But I'm hearing the same things and reading and listening to people say the same stuff. Don't be surprised if Spencer Rattler takes a jump or leap in this draft coverage of him and the evaluation of his career so far. Apparently, he has all the tools that you need him to. It's a matter of the place that he played at in South Carolina. So we'll see what he's going to look like. But surprisingly, even for me, because social media paints so many narratives, he's a high commodity.
He took the same journey as all these other guys were mentioning, too. He was at Oklahoma, did not play well there, let it get in his head, and then kind of went to South Carolina behind, let's admit, too, at least last year, a crappy offensive line.
Wretched offensive line.
And was still able to do a lot with a little.
According to Dan Brugler, he will be the most interviewed player at this year's Senior Bowl. Spencer Rattler. Let's go to Brian in Nashville next on the phone lines. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Great.
Good morning.
Good. I was just wanting to go back to the draft and thinking about options for the Titans. What are your thoughts on maybe trying to sign a Jonah Williams out of Cincinnati? He was not happy getting moved over to the right side when they signed Orlando Brown, and there is some familiarity with Callahan. I know it wouldn't light people's world on fire, but he'd be a hell of a lot better than anything we've had since Luan got hurt. So, and it'd give us some options at number 7.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the call. I am not the biggest Jonah Williams fan. Allowed 8 sacks this past season and 41 pressures and 730 pass blocking snaps.
Jonah's also a former first-rounder, correct?
Number 11 overall in 2019 out of Alabama. Allowed on the left side, by the way, allowed 13 sacks in 2022. I'm good.
I'm a little indifferent on him, too. He has his deficiencies, but I'm indifferent on Jonah Williams. That's just where I am. Do I think you can upgrade that position? Yes. If you're telling me I'm picking between Jonah Williams and a potential NPF competition, I'm probably going to pick NPF if he's around and healthy and available and takes a big jump. I think the ceiling for NPF is probably higher than what Jonah Williams has provided. Now, again, he's a number 11 overall pick at tackle, and he got moved because of Orlando Brown's price tag for sure, but he's supposed to be ready-made dude at 11, and he's had a few years in the league right now. So I'm indifferent on Jonah. If you sign him, okay, we'll see what it looks like.
I'm just tired of retread veteran tackles who have put on film that they're bad.
I know.
Yep.
I mean, it just at this point, like either develop one of the young guys you have for little money or draft somebody.
Yeah.
To me, those are your options. I just don't think bringing in a retread guy like this, unless you're bringing him in for a 1-year deal and you understand that it's going to take 2 off seasons under Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon's leadership to rebuild this thing. Like if Jonah Williams is here, it's an admission that they know that he's not the fix for the next 3 seasons, that he's a 1-year stopgap for either someone they draft on a cheap prove-it deal or, they just prioritize other positions and feel like we know the guy and maybe he can do a job there for 1 season.
And no matter who they bring in, guys, I'm just like waiting till they announce who the offensive line coach is.
Yeah.
I'm just like, please and please and please bring in somebody who is going to help develop them because God knows a lot of these guys still need to be developed.
Yeah, and for a franchise that's had a level of consistency as far as coaching staff and no changes, he's gotten worse.
Yes, he has.
Year by year.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
His last season playing left tackle the whole year, he gave up 12 sacks.
Yeah.
You know who else gave up 12 sacks last year?
Talk to him, Will.
Andre Dillard.
All right.
Andre Dillard, granted, played a lot less snaps than Jonah Williams did. So that's not an apples-to-apples comparison.
Yeah.
Because Jonah Williams played 1,100 snaps in that 2022 season when he played left tackle. All of those snaps were at left tackle, but I'm good.
If you had your guy, you don't move him around because of Orlando Brown Jr., too.
Coming up next, lots to discuss out of Knoxville as Austin Price of All Quested on 3 joins us. There is a Tennessee prospect whose stock rose in a big way yesterday, according to On 3. There is also a big basketball game tonight at the Artist formerly known as Thompson Bowling Arena. We'll discuss that and more with Austin Price next.
Valentine's is coming, and are you looking for the most thoughtful, most romantic gift for the one you love this Valentine's? 2 words for you. Genesis Diamonds. Maybe it's a simple pendant or an exquisite one-of-a-kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion, okay? And to make it even better, now to Valentine's, whether you're spending $199 or for you big ballers out there, $199,000, Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and a dinner out at no charge. This is a great deal, guys, okay? It's a one-stop shop for the ultimate Valentine's experience. So when you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry, they will give you some beautiful flowers from Jenny's Florist, some yummy chocolates, and a gift card for dinner at STK Steakhouse. So stop wasting time. Get to Genesis Diamonds. They've got a spectacular collection of memorable romantic gifts from $199 to $199,000, okay? And right now they're going to throw in some chocolate, flowers, and dinner at no extra charge. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds, and they're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Tuesday morning rolls on, and on RKW, we talk with the authority on Tennessee Volunteers coverage, and that is VolQuest and On 3. Tuesdays, Austin Price. Fridays, Brent Hubbs. Right here with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and myself, Will Bowling, as our very good friend Austin Price at Austin Priceless on Twitter joins us here on the phones from Knoxville. What's up, Austin? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
We are good. Got a lot of hoops to discuss. Got a lot of football recruiting news over the past couple of days. And Austin, let's start with the On 3 300 and Jordan Ross getting 5-star status from On 3 this week and as a top 10 player. How big of a role does he play as a true freshman, do you think, for Josh Heupel's team this fall?
Well, I think a lot of that depends on kind of where he's at when he gets here. Obviously, it would help if he were a midterm enrollee and he could go through spring practice, but I don't think that's an end-all, be-all. I mean, 2 years ago, two of Tennessee's, most played freshmen were players that didn't arrive until the summertime. So it's not always an end-all, be-all when it comes to, being here in January. But I do think it helps. I think, for somebody, like Jordan Ross or like Bennett Warren, we're talking about guys on the line of scrimmage, being able to, either get a little bigger in Ross's, case, or trim off some baby fat, in Bennett Warren's case, being here for those months in January, February, and even early March, and then the summertime is big, just from the addition or subtraction of weight. But, again, I don't think it's the end-all, be-all. I think a lot of it depends on how much mentally he can make up. Jordan's a long kid. Athletically, he's got a lot of gifts, and, he's somebody that Tennessee's really uber excited about.
Austin, with an open position for Tennessee in the office of Director of Recruiting, Josh Heupel tabbing Trey Johnson for that role, a Tennessee grad who has spent time on staff as the defensive scouting coordinator for the Vols since joining Heupel's original staff in 2021. What more can you tell us about Trey, and how will this role change with him now in it?
Well, I think it'll morph a little bit. Trey's done a phenomenal job behind the scenes, scouting, watching tape, helping the defense, scout players and getting, quality tape to the coaches to review. And, he does a nice job when kids are on campus, and now he'll have a little more say in, kind of how visits are laid out and all that. So, again, in some ways, like it can be talked about, a little probably over talked about, but
sure.
At the same time, I do think that, Trey will add something to that role because, that's a role that kind of sets up the visits, how they play out. But now he's going to know kind of the integral parts of, each of these kids because he's been watching the film on these kids. And so I think that, he can add a little boost, into that area of the football office. And, obviously is, done a little bit of it before at both USC and Liberty at previous stops. And now will kind of be I would call it more of a jack of all trades in the recruiting office with Trey Johnson.
Austin, how much does Havens the Lance Herd on campus now officially enrolled settles the offensive line positions, and what does that mean also? And I guess the other side of that, how has John Campbell been accepting of potentially moving over to the right side?
Yeah, I mean, I think every kid, wants to play left tackle or, whatever, right? John, is moving to right tackle. You saw the videos out on Twitter of him working at right tackle. I think it's his preference. Probably not, but I think at the end of the day, John Campbell, wants to play, and John Campbell, wants to help Tennessee win, and is doing, kind of what Darnell Wright did, 2 years ago when he moved to right tackle, which, put Gerald Mincy at left tackle. Then Gerald Mincy moved to right tackle begrudgingly to let John Campbell play left tackle, and now it's kind of like this rite of passage. And so, John is good with it. Obviously I think he would prefer to stay on the left side just because that's what he's always played. But I think this honestly helps him. One, I don't think John's a left tackle at the next level. And two, like now all of a sudden he's got tape of both. And the more versatility you can show, Ramon, as you know, the better. And so I think that for John Campbell, this is the best thing that could have happened to him. And I think they're pretty settled on the offensive line minus left guard. Is that going to be Jackson Lampley? Is it going to be Andre Keurig? Is it going to be, somebody else? That's why you have spring practice and fall camp to figure out. But, Tennessee's pretty settled at left tackle, right tackle, center, and right guard. It'll just be that left guard spot that will be a hot competition all spring and fall.
That's a good problem to have right there when you're only looking for one, but there's so many options to fill it with, man. God, it's been a while since we've had that, it feels like. One thing is this, they will be battle tested, especially the tackles, man, with James Pierce, starting with just him. How much better, Austin, can he get? The expectations for him going into what could quite possibly be his last year on campus, depending on health and all things involved.
Yeah, I think James Pierce helps everybody. He helps himself. He helps the offensive tackles. He helps the younger guys around him, whether it be, a Caleb Herring, a Josh Josephs, who's the same age, a Jordan Ross. I think that, just having him be as explosive and disruptive as he can be helps everybody, because I think it really does help those offensive tackles, kind of get, if you can stop James Pierce, you should be able to stop most, right? I mean, he'll be a top 2 or 3, edge guy in college football. So, I think it's a big deal to have him, be a showcase for your program going forward. I mean, in reality, a year from now, Josh Heupel is going to want him walking across that stage, getting drafted as high as he can. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 10? It'll be first round. And, I think that's big, because in 2 years you want him playing, on Sunday Night Football and saying, James Pierce, Tennessee. All that helps. I mean, you look at, what Josh Heupel and them have done. The last 3 recruiting cycles, Ramon, they've signed 3 5-star defensive linemen or edge guys: Jordan Ross, James Pierce, David Hobbs. And so, I think pretty impressive when you factor in that, what's Josh Heupel's known as an offensive guy, right? But yet here they're having success in the, recruiting the defensive side of the ball. And, it all started with James Pierce 3 years ago.
Austin Price of VolQuest joining us now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Let's shift to the hardwood, where there's what should be a great battle tonight between Tennessee and South Carolina. Austin, how special is Dalton Connect, and are we witnessing a player, in terms of just the potential that maybe he has even more we haven't even seen yet?
Yeah, I think you really are. I think that the most impressive thing about Dalton Connect, Kayla, is he doesn't – it's not like he looks like he forces up a bunch of bad shots. The only time he forced up bad shots and looked mortal was when he had 39 against Florida and was trying to get 40. And, for 4 straight possessions, just took some god-awful shots just because his teammates wanted him to get 40, and he was just trying, right? So, for my liking, he just lets the game come to him. He'll have 2 or 4, 7 minutes into a half, and all of a sudden he goes on this flurry, 14, 16. All of a sudden, he's 20, and it just happens in such quick order. And, the way he played the other night at Vanderbilt was really impressive. Tennessee kind of looked sluggish after that week off in the first half, and they were down 35-30, and all of a sudden he just kind of took over early in the second half. And the 2 plays coming into my mind were the inbounds pass from the corner 3 with him falling away and falling down that he made. And then Tennessee, but the game was, done at this point, but they were up 11, and, he just kind of stepped on Vanderbilt and kind of, rose up and hit that, kind of almost borderline fadeaway from about the foul line to go back up 13. And you're just like, I mean, geez. I mean, the kid just can rise and fire from just anywhere, whether it's mid-range, 3, and that part of his game is kind of, reminiscent of an Allen Houston from the early 90s, because Allen could just kind of rise and fire from just about anywhere. And it's an NBA-type play and makes him extremely tough to guard. So, the kid's got the moxie to him, but he doesn't just force it. He's not just you look at the other guys that are in the SEC that, are averaging, right around the same amount of points as Dalton Connect. They're shooting the ball more than Dalton Connect is. He's not shooting as much as everybody thinks he is.
So could this be the piece that Tennessee's really been looking for in terms of getting to that next level in the tournament, getting to possibly, the Final Four? Is this the guy that could really help, get them to the next level? Because we've seen so many talented teams under Rick Barnes.
Time will tell, but I would tell you yes, based off the fact that, in recent years, when they've had good teams, when people have thought they could make a run, they fell short. They did so because they had to, draw up plays to get people open. They don't have to draw up anything for Dalton. Like, he can just ISO and go get his and go create a shot or make a play, whether that's him scoring or everybody collapsing on him and him kicking. And listen, if Jordan Gainey continues to shoot the ball like he shot the last couple of games after being kind of that lull there for a few games, he's finally started to find his footing. You saw Vescovi the other night, just stick it from 25 right in the Vanderbilt kid's eye. I mean, like, you start making shots around him, and Jonas Adu continues to play well down low, Tennessee's going to be a super tough out at the SEC tournament in March and then in the NCAA tournament in March. I mean, because he can go and, ISO and get his, I think that's what makes this team different and it's what makes him potentially, as you said, that missing piece.
Austin Price of AllQuest with us at Austin Priceless, where you can find him on Twitter. Austin, do you get any sense that this could be a final hoorah for Rick Barnes? And perhaps I am premature in asking that, and I'm sure you guys get that question all the time in Knoxville, considering his age and experience. But with a lot of veteran guys graduating and with maybe the sense that this is Tennessee's best shot in a while to make a deep run, is there any idea out there that this could be it for Rick Barnes?
Well, Rick's at an age where, like, if he called it quits at the end of the season, nobody would be fazed, right? But I also would tell you that he has found the fountain of youth with the transfer portal. He doesn't have to spend months upon months upon months recruiting. He'll recruit a few high school kids that he feels like are good players that he can develop, and then he can go and cherry pick from the portal and recruit a kid for 10 to 14 days, and that's it. And you look at what Tennessee has been able to add out of the transfer portal this past year. I mean, Gainey and Connect are really good players that have really helped this team. The ability to make outside shots, the ability to score the basketball, the buy-in defensively for guys that are known as offensive players has been there. And I would tell you that, I think Rick is, looking around going, I could do this for a while longer because, the game's changed and, it's changed in a way where I think Rick Barnes can last. I mean, some of these coaches, where it's Jay Wright or Roy Williams, they got out because they didn't like the NIL space and all the stuff that went with it. But I think Rick Barnes just kind of looked around and said, I can adapt to this because there's some positives to it. And so I think that I wouldn't be so quick to, say that he's headed, to hang out with the grandkids quite yet. I think he's finding a little bit of fountain of youth here.
Austin, when you look at all across Knoxville right now on campus, man, is this about as healthy as you've seen it as far as sports and coaches and expectations that they've had? I mean, baseball just had their designation as a top 10 preseason team with also 3 preseason. I always emphasize that, All-Americans. And have you seen it like this? And if you have, what year or years were they?
A long time ago. It was back when I was, in high school. I mean, when you look at, what Tennessee did and in 98 in football, ladies basketball, and even the men's team was really solid that year. That was back when Delmonico was, going to College World Series and so on and so forth. But, I mean, it's been, probably 25 years, Ramon. I mean, to put it in terms, 2024, 98 to 26 years ago. I mean, it's been a while, and they are really healthy. I mean, all the big ones are healthy. The women's basketball team, I would tell you, is probably struggling a little bit. They've got to, kind of try to see if they can flip this thing around here. But you got golf is a top 10 team. Volleyball had a fantastic year. Softball continues to do well under Karen Weekly. Tennis has been good. It's been a good time to be on campus. A lot of the teams are kind of having success and kind of building off of one another.
Austin, I was going to ask you about the Lady Vols as well on the way out here. Another loss for them over the weekend. Do you feel like change could be on the horizon there? Is it finally time for maybe Danny White to take a look at that program and maybe look for a coach outside of the Lady Vol family?
Well, I think you have to let the season play out and see what happens. They obviously have some talent on that team, but at the same time, right now they are projected, and it's projections, right? But a lot of that stuff, the people that do it, know what they're doing. They're projected last four in. I mean, Tennessee's, they've made every NCAA tournament there's ever been. They've never missed. So if you miss, like for the first time in school history, obviously that's a big red flag. And so, can Coach Harper, can she find kind of something that gets this team turned around? We'll see. They've won some close games. They've had some big comebacks in SEC play. The loss to Ole Miss a couple of days ago was a tough one because that's one you should win. You have some really tough games on the schedule coming up. You still have to play LSU. You still have to play South Carolina. You have A&M at the end of February. So, again, for my liking, they've got to find something because they have some tough games ahead, but they can't really afford any more losses in games that they're supposed to win if they're going to make the NCAA tournament. And, I would tell you if Coach Harper, is going to be here in 2024-25 basketball season, they probably need to make the NCAA tournament and kind of, figure something out down the stretch here.
He is Austin Price, the authority on Tennessee Vols coverage at Austin Priceless on Twitter, VolQuest, and On3, our wonderful partners covering Tennessee here on RKW twice a week. Austin, great stuff as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Austin.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There he is, Austin Price. We'll react to some of that coming up next. Plus, I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter. I know a couple of us have. On the highest-ranked quarterback out of high school who's playing in the Super Bowl. Not a guy you would expect, but a guy you've heard of. Next.
It's Ramon and Kayla here for Window Nation. If you did not know, winter is here and the air is cold, and they say it's going to get cold in February, okay? So hear us out. So your energy bills will be at all-time high. So now's the time to replace those windows with 0% financing for 5 years and 50% off all style of windows you can choose from. So now's the time to protect your family from the elements, lower your energy costs, and upgrade the look and feel of your home.
Yeah, so we had that winter storm come through almost 2 weeks now, back, if we're going back that far. Seems like yesterday, though, and maybe now you're realizing with everything melting, maybe you're seeing some leakage in your windows. That's not a good thing. That can cause structural damage to your home and cause mold to grow. That means you probably need new windows from Window Nation, and our friends here can give them to you. They're the best to do it, too. Window Nation has installed nearly 2 million windows with 96% perfection, making them one of the top window companies in the entire country. And Ramon was talking about these temperatures, always so cold in January and February. So you want to keep that heat inside, save up to 30% on those energy bills by just investing in new windows from Window Nation. So do yourself a favor and give them a call, 866-90Nation, or log online to windownation.com.
Wrapping up hour number 3 on RKW. We are brewed by 8th and Roast and rolling right along to kick off your Tuesday morning. 615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up in 15 minutes, Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com last night has his top 50 draft prospects. 22 of them, Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, play 2 positions, 11 each. We'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. 2 positions that I feel Titans fans are very interested in.
All right, then.
As we begin Senior Bowl week and as Ramon Foster joins us all week long in Mobile, pulling double duty with us and with Titans Radio this week. But speaking of double duty, Jawan Jennings has been doing that ever since he got on campus the year I got at Tennessee. Shout out high school class of 2015 for myself and for Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings is the highest ranked quarterback out of high school playing in the Super Bowl. This is a real thing. And number 2 is Sam Darnold, which makes this even more fun. But Jawan Jennings was the number 5 quarterback in the country coming out of Blackman High School right here in Murfreesboro. Brock Purdy out of Gilbert, Arizona was ranked 24th in his high school class when he committed to Iowa State. Sam Darnold was ranked 6th out of San Clemente in California, of course going to USC. And Patrick Mahomes ranked as the number 29 quarterback in high school. Not even in the top 247 on 247 Sports. A 3-star, the number 82 player in the state of Texas is the one who we're all having nightmares of watching again in another Super Bowl.
Oh, man. I didn't know he was a quarterback coming out. I'll also say this. I'm surprised they hadn't used his arm in like double pass opportunities for this offense. I say this, and that's probably going to be the second play of the game in the Super Bowl or something like that. But I'm actually shocked we hadn't seen his arm talent. Antoine Randall was a former quarterback coming out, I think, Illinois in college, and I saw him use his arm multiple times in games and football. So hey, shout out to him, man. Go Vols.
If he were here under Tim Kelly this last year, he definitely would have seen some work at the quarterback position at times. Yeah, that's really interesting. No, I did not know that. It's also an interesting note that, my goodness, Patrick Mahomes was the least in terms of highly ranked guy in quarterbacks out of all those guys. I mean, that's just that is why Patrick Mahomes continues to blow my mind in terms of the player he is, because he's not only he wasn't only underrated coming into the draft process, but he sat behind Alex Smith for a year. He has taken advantage of every opportunity to not just be okay with just being the guy now, but to continue to want to prove people wrong. Going on the road the past 2 weeks, winning on the road for the first time in terms of the playoffs. So, man, that's impressive.
Hey, shout out to the 3 stars, baby. There's a lot of room for growth with the last 2 stars we didn't get, baby.
So in 2014, until the Riverdale-Oakland game that Ramon and I called on the zone, where Riverdale upset Oakland on a 2-point conversion with 90 seconds left, Jawan Jennings was actually the last quarterback from Murfreesboro to beat an Oakland high school team. Literally. I remember that game. It was on a Saturday, I believe. I can actually check this. I do have the power of the internet at my fingertips. It was a 2014 game. I know that. I believe it was on a Saturday between Oakland and Blackman, and it was on ESPN2. Yep, Sunday, actually. Sunday, August 24th, a 28-21 win for Jawan Jennings' Blackman Blaze over Oakland. And that was a Blackman team that went 11-2 and ended up losing to Oakland in the Class 6A quarterfinal. I did not expect to be talking Murfreesboro High School football this morning on January the 30th, 2024. That being said, though, the Jawan Jennings quarterback era was a very fun time in Tennessee high school football history. He was an absolute stud at QB, and he would then turn around and play safety. And he was like Ryan Clark and Lamar Jackson mixed in one player. The guy was a weapon.
Phenomenal.
Absolute weapon.
That's crazy. Those who are ball players, well, I would say this. You got to go back almost 10 years, it seemed like. I don't know if people play 2 ways anymore in high school. But quarterback and safety seems like to be the pairing that most coaches go to.
100%.
Yeah.
Is it? I wonder it's because they can read the defense a little bit better?
I guess so.
Of quarterback skills?
Maybe less contact play to play. I don't know. But if you make contact, you're making maybe hard contact out of that position.
Yeah. And then Ryan Tannehill went opposite. He went from wide receiver to quarterback.
Right.
Right.
Always really interesting.
Did you guys see this where Super Bowl teams are going to be staying in Las Vegas? This is interesting. The Super Bowl, of course, in Vegas, the Roomba Stadium that it will be played in, not too far from the Strip, but teams will not be staying on the Las Vegas Strip, very intentionally. So the Chiefs will be at the Westin Lake, Las Vegas, and the 49ers will be at Hilton Lake, Las Vegas, which is 25 miles away from the Strip. We are trying to do damage control, friends, before the Super Bowl starts. That is the black eye the NFL is desperately trying to avoid, is a player in that game being unavailable because they either got in trouble for something that happened late night at a club or because they just gambled while they were there.
We heard some stories about the Pro Bowl last year in terms of Vegas, and obviously that's a lot less lighthearted, but players were definitely out till the wee hours, and wasn't it Mike Vrabel last year who coached one of those, or one of the Titans players?
Would have been the year after Titans were the 1 seed.
Yeah. So that was a couple of years ago. But,
Yep.
man, the stories that came out of that one. So, yeah, they want to make sure that all those guys are on their best behavior this week.
Man, they should probably try not to announce which hotels they're at also.
Well, that's true.
That's a good
I don't think the NFL announced that. That was just a reporter who
goodness.
this is Arash Markazi, writer for The Messenger.
Gotcha.
Who is a radio host out west. So there you go.
Makes sense.
Just don't throw up in front of your owner like a certain offensive lineman did during the Super Bowl.
Winning the Super Bowl.
Such a good story.
615-737-1045, our number. Coming up in hour 4, Ron Slay of 3HL and SEC Network will join us. Coming up at 9:20. But when we come back, NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah has given his top 50 draft prospects, or at least is making the list. He's got 22 of those players that make 2 positions of need for the Titans. We'll tell you what those are next.
Hey, friends, it's Kayla Anderson, and you can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from that awful joint pain for 2024. Don't go another year compromising because of that pain in your knees, your back, your shoulder. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. And if you didn't know this, well, now you know your body actually has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics can make that happen with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. The future of pain treatments has arrived, and QC Kinetics has tens and thousands of satisfied patients all over the country. People with that back pain, with that hip pain, and any pain associated with arthritis or an old injury. It's not a Band-Aid. It's a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again, get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. So get a free consultation on the books today. Call QC Kinetics now at 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
What's going on, Nashville? 9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Titans have been busy talking to 3 different candidates for the OC job. Nick Holes, the Jags passing game coordinator, Eric Studsville, the Dolphins running back coach, and Thad Lewis, the Bucs quarterback coach. They've also retained Shane Bowen's rights for the meantime, despite interviewing Ravens defensive back coach Denard Wilson for the defensive coordinator position. From one Harbaugh to another, the Chargers have hired their general manager. It is Ravens Director of Player Personnel, Joe Horitz. Joe has been with the Ravens since '98 when he started as a personal assistant. The Baltimore Lifer is now heading to the West Coast. And a big blow for Kansas City. Chiefs defensive lineman Charles Omenihu tore his ACL during Sunday's AFC Championship game against Baltimore. Omenihu had 7 sacks in 11 games this season. Also had a strip sack of Lamar Jackson on Sunday. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour on a Tuesday morning, and hour 4 on Tuesday means no roof. That's right. Ron Slay scheduled to join us in 20 minutes. We'll get the latest on Tennessee basketball as they get ready for South Carolina tonight at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. Is Dalton Connect drifting towards National Player of the Year conversation? Vegas odds say he's number 2, but it is still a big gap between himself and Purdue big man Zach Edey. We'll talk about what Dalton Connect has to do to close that gap. Courtesy of the hardest working man in showbiz, 3HL and SEC Network's Ron Slay, coming up in 20 minutes. 615-737-1045, our number. Ramon Foster with us all week in Mobile. Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh with you in Nashville. Ramon Foster at the Reese's Senior Bowl. Have you yet had a Reese's since you got to Mobile?
Hadn't seen a single one.
Dang
actually.
it.
I'm talking about not a single brown cup on the ground, not the wrapper. I hadn't seen anything orange but the labels of advertising for the football game. So, no, not a single one.
Let's change that, please.
I think, too, at the end of the game, whatever team wins needs to be dumping a Gatorade bucket full of Reese's. That would be great.
I'd say just dump peanut butter on them.
Oh, that might be better.
That's what I say.
Creamy or crunchy?
Creamy.
Crunchy.
Oh, I like creamy.
I like creamy too.
I'm in the middle.
Dump the crunch on them.
I cop out, but I like some mixture. I like a creamy. I like a creamy or a crunchy peanut butter, if that makes sense. And I'm spoiled because at Tennessee, when you're a student athlete, they grind peanuts right in front of you to make like the homemade peanut butter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was
so
always
good.
what we would get after practice was a vanilla protein shake, which we only had a certain kind we could have because football players got the blended ones that they made for them. I'm not bitter at all. Yes, I am. And you'd get red apples and peanut butter with a vanilla protein shake. It's like the taste of college to me.
Everybody hurts.
That's right. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. 615-737-1045, streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Twitch, please.
Good conversation with Austin Price of AllQuest just about a half hour ago. If you missed that, you can subscribe to the Ramon, Kayla, and Will podcast feed wherever you download podcasts. Every hour of every show podcasted there immediately afterwards at 10 o'clock. And you can find that Apple, Spotify, or at 1045thezone.com. Tweet from Daniel Jeremiah last night that I thought was interesting. Or an X post, perhaps. Or an X, whatever.
So stupid.
Is what we'll call it.
I know. We can't even call it anything.
11 wide receivers and 11 offensive linemen in Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 prospects in the NFL draft. That is a lot of both. And it is a good year if you are a Tennessee Titans fan or a Tennessee Titans executive to need a wideout or need a receiver. No doubt about it.
It depends on which one that you want to base your team building on. Like if you telling me that somebody wants that 7th overall pick and I can still get a high end, a tier 1 back end wide receiver at 14, but I can also gather more picks, I'm taking them. Because if you're drafting this guy that can turn into a number 1 in the first round at around 14, 15, I'm okay with moving back if it's that deep of a class. I've heard that too. Like, as far as linemen and wide receivers, you're going to have your pick of the litter. But y'all know, like I know, there are different tiers to what draft prospects are in these moments like that. So I want best available when it boils down, but I'm also of the mindset that I will take more to take a lesser guy if somebody else wants that spot that bad. 7 is such a prime spot. It is.
If that's the case too, you just have to make sure that you're all on the same page. Something we haven't seen in the past. This is a new regime in terms of all of these guys working together. It will be amazing just in that war room to see the decisions that they come to. And I get everybody saying, best available at number 7. I still am on the notion that if Alt is there, if Joe Alt is there, I feel like you still have to take that guy because you have to somehow start solidifying this line. And it's not going to happen overnight. So why continue to push it back if you really think that can be a long-term guy at left tackle for the future of this organization? Now, if he's not there and for some reason you've got one of these wide receivers that just happen to be sitting there, I wouldn't be completely mad at it, but you have to make sure then you have your plan for whatever tackle you're going to take next, because it is a deep tackle class. Offensive tackles are plenty in this class. So are wide receivers, though. So I'm also not opposed to getting a really good receiver still in the 2nd round. We've seen it so many times that you can get value there.
Yeah. It does feel like more often than not, the first prospect that we like ends up being the pick. And I say that because over the last 3 years, the last 3 first-round picks the Titans have made, it's been the guy we've talked about first, right? Last year it was Peter Skoronski, where I think everybody said at the beginning of the process, Skoronski's the high-floor guy that you take, and he's a surefire pick on that offensive line. And then we kind of talk ourselves out of it as it goes. Maybe it's quarterback. Maybe it's wide receiver. Maybe it's best available. Maybe it's this or that. And then we did the same thing, even with Caleb Farley. And say what you will about that pick, but that for many of us was the pick that we were making at the beginning of that process of it's Farley. And then we switched to, maybe it's yada, yada, yada. Traylon Burks even was similar. And that was with the Titans picking further back and not moving up with Philadelphia, of course, in that draft. But it is funny that we should almost give more stock to our inclinations now before all the character concerns and season of lies season begins. Because our first pick now, before we overthink it, oftentimes ends up just being the guy who is the best fit.
It is, and I think there's 2 different lists, and probably 3 different lists. So when you look at it also, Will, to that point, I think prospect ranking as far as who's the number 1 guy, how you perceive them as far as where their rankings is. Number 1 guy in this draft is probably Caleb Williams, right?
100%.
100%. And then they rank them accordingly, moving from Malik Neighbors all the way to Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that is as accurate as it gets to. And the other side of it is even in these All-Star games, like I said, listening to Jim Nagy, who's president of the Senior Bowl, said they'll have guys committed to the games. And then their agents will call them the day or week before. It's like, hey, Jeremiah Trotter just said we're a top 20 pick, man. Sorry, we can't play in the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, so those things are accurate, I think, when you look at where they should be drafted at. It is, but the mocks, of course, they change because of trades and team needs and stuff like that, or somebody just so happens to slip because of medical. But you can almost, to your point, Will, accurately look at where they rank these guys despite positions and say, yeah, that's a top 20 pick or that's a top 10 pick when you're looking at us talking about Joe Alt or somebody like that. Like, their ranking player-wise is pretty much accurate when they drop those.
Yeah, the guys that change are those guys that really do perform well in the Senior Bowl week or, the combine. You're going to have some of those guys, the stock really raise. I always go back to Terry McLaurin. His stock raised so much in that Senior Bowl, and then you see the type of receiver he is now in the league. But the top guys, I don't think much changes there. If anything changes, guys, I think it's the media and agents doing things at the last minute to try to have stock plummet a little. Like, look at CJ Stroud last year and the IQ test that they were trying to put out there that he wasn't smart in terms of football. Well, that's proving to be wrong at that point with whatever test that was. The litmus?
S2 cognition test.
S2 cognition. And so there's so much that goes on. I feel like the weeks leading up to the draft that sometimes they try to actually plummet some of these top draft picks, and I think it's kind of garbage.
And the S2 cognition test based out of Nashville, there were other reports coming from the S2 cognition people that the number given for CJ Stroud was totally bogus.
Jeez Louise.
The number
that was a part of the
that was the media.
The number that was publicized was not intended to be publicized and was not exactly telling the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron Slay in the F&M Bank chat just says that. And Brandon Alley is a local guy who was on 3HL and mentioned on 3HL like that was not the whole story.
And that's what
you
I'm
had
saying.
last year was you had the Texans general manager, Nick Caserio, back-channeling criticism of a guy he knew he wanted. That way there was a better chance that he would be there for them to trade back up and get in the top 5 at number 3.
That's what's wild.
NFL teams lie?
Or number 2, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like more and more, right?
So, interested to see what kind of politicking the Titans can do with that this time around, because there are a lot of options there, but I think the initial conversation and the initial guy that everyone is fixating on is Joe Alt at Notre Dame, a guy who will not be in Mobile.
No, he will not. But there's a lot of good prospects down here, though. So good competition. If whatever they're looking for is right here in Mobile this week.
Coming up next, the man who had that conversation last draft cycle on 3HL, Ron Slay, will join us. Is Dalton Connect approaching Zach Edey territory for National Player of the Year? And if not yet, what will it take for him to become a legitimate candidate? That next on RKW. Tuesday morning on RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone. And a very special shout out to our guy Q for bringing the goods this morning. We are enjoying some sausage, egg, and cheese croissants right now from 8th and Roast. These things are amazing.
It's like a hamburger, but a breakfast.
Literally. I actually
sandwich.
I sent a picture of this to Ramon and to my girlfriend Peyton, who is always working the same hours as us and very hungry. And she said, "Is that a biscuit or a donut?"
Right.
Which is a great compliment because it is a large, large biscuit that is just absolutely phenomenal. So special thanks to 8th and Roast. You can go by and get your own.
Yep.
Go by the Broadview at Vanderbilt, right down the road from us if you are in Midtown, or you can stop by 8th Avenue, Charlotte, or the airport to get their coffee and outstanding breakfast food. Ron Slay is in the building with us on the phone lines this morning, talking some SEC hoops. What's up, Slay? How are you?
What up, though? What's happening? What's good? Good people? How you guys doing? I see I don't make it in, and y'all have breakfast sandwiches.
I know. Well, here's the thing, Slay.
I remember back in the day, that's how it used to be. But, they ain't changed.
Right.
Here's the thing. We have 3 breakfast sandwiches. So would you rather me have you in studio where there is food for everyone but you, or just say, hey, just call in today, and we all have our food that's accounted for?
That was smart, Willie. You're always looking out for your guy. You're always looking out for your guy. I appreciate that.
Always. I love playing the game this time of year of where in the world is Ron Slay, and more specifically, wherever I am consuming a beverage or two before a Tennessee basketball game or before a Saturday fun day in Music City. And Ron Slay just pops up on televisions at bars and homes and businesses and hospitals and anything, you name it. Ron Slay's face is there. It's good for you to be seen so much, Ron.
Hey, man, I love the opportunity, man. I'm just having fun with it, man. That's all. They told me I get to be me, and Savage makes sure I continue to be me. So, listen, I can't ask for nothing more, man. It's all good for me.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like you're spending a little more, though, on the wardrobe? Because, man, when I was doing TV full-time, I was like, where's all my money going?
Yeah, see, this is what you got to know, KK. You got to have reps. See, I'm out here in these streets, and I got reps, man. So, you know what I mean? I always say, man, people that are interested, you know what I mean, always go check out my guy Street, Tuxedo John Street, man. Him and the family always keep me laced, man, and make it easy for me. You know, they've been taking care of me since I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
When we won back-to-back state championships. His pops actually outfitted us with tuxedos for our banquet and did it the year after. So we got a long lasting relationship, man, and it carried over from way back in '96. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they always come through. Also the same people that took care of Savage for, you know what I mean?
Love that.
Sure did.
So yeah, man, you just gotta know people, you gotta be there, you gotta understand the right people, and you gotta cultivate relationships. That's what I'm at with it, KK.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Outstanding. Ron Slay, our guest, courtesy of 3HL and SEC Network this morning. Slay, is Dalton Connect a legitimate National Player of the Year contender?
I tell you what, Willie, if we talking about anything else, after the tear he's been on, and what you got to understand is you got to take it for what it is right now. You got to take it for face value leading up to this point. You can't look ahead. You can't be like, oh, but what about when he plays such and such? Or what about when they get to the top? No, you take it for what it is right now, face value. And anybody to say anything different is a fool. This man is averaging 32 points on the road, leading his team, and not only doing that, but not hunting. I think that's the part that's got to be understood. The man's not hunting for shots, and they're winning in one of the toughest conferences in the nation, outside of probably the Big 12. I may give a nod to the Big 12. Big East is right there knocking on the door, but man, SEC, man, it's tough, and that's on both sides. You see, LSU win, lost at Mississippi State, like the women. So it's tough all across the board, football as well, and it's good to see basketball right there. And when Dalton Connect is able to go out there on the road and be able to, lead your team from behind and not trouble the waters. A lot of times when guys get to scoring like that and, scoring a lot of points and sometimes hunting for shots, like people can get disgruntled. You don't see that. You know what I mean? The culture has been laid. It's not about me. It's not about me culture. And I think everybody's leading into it, and you got something great going on. So, hell yeah. There's no way we just talking SEC Player of the Year. You know what? This is all National Player of the Year talk now.
When you look at his career so far, man, the path that he had to go to, what can you contest that to? I know hard work is a part of it too, but how do you look at Dalton Knecht as a Vol and say, yeah, this is what's making him better, or how do you view his path, Savage?
Man, you look at it and you got to respect the grind first and foremost. You look at it and see how he got to that point, what he's done to sustain that point, and to sustain that level of play at that point, because it's not been a drop off. If you look at it, him coming from JUCO, he killed in JUCO. Once he got to Northern Colorado?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, once he got there, he did the exact same thing. It wasn't a drop off then either. Man was still averaging 20 points, so it's the opportunity he's been given, and it's him making the most of that platform that he's on, man. And, you know, with that national spotlight being on him, you got to tip the cap to him and continue to him. You got to continue to love the way he's going about it. Like, the man's continuing to work. When we had the opportunity to interview him, we were talking about things of that he can do better, you know, and I was, you know, poking at him and, you know, jabbing at him about his free throws. And he said, man, don't even worry, man. I know my pops has already texted me at least 2 or 3 times telling me, man, I need to get to the nearest gym and shoot 100 free throws before I leave out of there. So that right there is letting you know, man, he got a good circle around him. He enjoys what he's doing. And that right there, that's gonna lead to some great things. And that's why we're having this conversation now about him.
Yeah, I joked with the gang yesterday, man, Will and Caleb, by saying there's a real cool cultural movie that's out. Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes called White Man Can't Jump. And Dalton Knecht wouldn't star in that movie, Savage. How does it look like this man is floating through the air the way he is, man? It's just a testament to his athletic ability and just how he's using his size. I can't tell if he's 6'6" or is he 6'10", because he jumps and just soars like he's Keith Van Horn or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He plays at a different level, man, at a different pace. And I think when you think of guys that are scorers, you don't necessarily think that, you know, this guy's going to be a guy that's going to be athletic, you know, and be able to take off from the second hash and go and finish in the air, acrobatic or dunking or whatever it may be. And then you look at him. This is don't judge a book by its cover right here. That's all it is. You know, you go with the stereotypes. That's what we were talking about on SEC Network. You throw all the stereotypes out. We were talking about it too, Savage. Like, this ain't that. You judge this book by your cover if you want to, and you're going to look up and you're going to have 15 in a row dropped on you from all spots on the floor, three-point line, free throw, dunks, alley-oops. Like, it don't even matter, man. This dude right here, man, he throws all that to the wayside. I said, man, when you look at him, he looks like if you could go back in the time machine, that's how I would think Opie would look, Opie Taylor. You know what I'm saying? But then you look at him now, it's like, man, this boy here, man, done filled out. This man here been eating the right stuff, been doing the right work. You got to love it, man. It's exciting to see. It's something you can grasp to. It's a feel-good story at the same time because of where he came from, you know, the JUCO route. Like, a lot of people don't understand, man. JUCO, if you ain't got tough skin, we talked about it before, if you ain't got tough skin or you ain't got that dog in you, you're not making it out of JUCO successfully. You can forget about it. You will get swallowed up. It's a dog-eat-dog world down there. And then for him to go on and get to this point, man, it's the payoff.
What do you expect tonight from what should be a really good battle on the hardwood between Tennessee and South Carolina? You've been telling us about these Gamecocks.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough matchup, and anybody overlooking it is a fool. You know, you got, you always hear about Meechie Johnson because of last year, him putting up the crazy points, him going to Rupp and, you know, getting the victory there, him shooting the ball really, really well. Now, this year, Coach Parrish has come back, put some pieces around him, man, some pieces that really fit. And one of those main pieces is Talon Cooper, man, back there in the backcourt. This guy's so poised, about 6'4", running the point guard spot. So you wonder how Meechie Johnson cannot score he can score 0 points, and they still pull out a victory, is because Talon Cooper, man, him getting guys in the right spot. They got Zach Davis, and they doing all this without the Vanderbilt transfer, Studi, who's been out for like 3 or 4 games. Not sure if he's gonna play tonight, but man, they got a squad. BJ Mack down low, giving them an inside-outside presence that can space the floor. They got some guys, Big Graves, lost weight, the 5-man. So you got your work cut out for you. But the only thing that I give Tennessee the edge on is playing at home.
Yep.
Man, their defense goes up another notch. Like, they will absolutely strangle and smother you defensively. I was telling Savage, I always talk about how Rick Pitino introduced the method of everybody playing very, very hard, and you're fouling while playing hard, but they can't call every foul because everybody's doing it, and you'll be there all day long. That's kind of how Tennessee is. Once everybody's playing hard, it's not like Meshack comes in and he's the only one playing hard. All 5 players are playing hard defensively, so they got to let a lot of things go. And if you're not physically able to take this, it's going to be a problem. South Carolina's going on the road. I'm not sure they've seen this type of pressure, but it will be a hell of a game to me.
What is it going to take to get Josiah Jordan-James out of that shooting slump?
Oh, you know what, KK? I had to reach out to some of my reps about that, man, and because I was thinking the same thing. And when you look at it, man, he is more so in a sacrificial role right now. You know what I'm saying? I think him and Santi both understand that they'll both be there when needed. Yeah. But when you're riding a wave like you are right now, you don't disturb that groove. You know what I mean? That's the old school song. Don't disturb this groove.
Tell them.
Hey, man, I'm telling you. If you do, like, what are you trying to do? How selfish is that? You know what I'm saying? Y'all winning. You got a guy on a heater right now. And also, not only do you have Dalton Connect playing at that pace, but the reason Jonas Adu is able to play the way he is because of sacrificing shots. The reason Zakai Ziegler is able to play and take another step in that role is because of sacrificing shots. So it would be different if Josiah wasn't out there doing the intangible things. He's still rebounding at a high clip. He's still playing defense at a high clip, still making assists at a high clip. He's not a liability out there. You're not going to leave him open. You know what I'm saying? It's just the thing that he's turning down shots to get another shot specifically for Dalton Connect or Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's more of a more selfless role, and you got to look. I don't think I'm speaking out of terms, but if those guys have been there 5 years, him and Santi, it's not about increasing your draft stock. It's more so about we want to win and leave a legacy right here and cement it for life, and it'll be a done deal. And how do you do that? You ride a hot hand like this, because this right here, what you're seeing in Dalton Connect, this don't come along a lot.
Ron Slay, SEC Network and 3HL with us this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Slay, for Santiago Vescovi hitting some 25-footers and hitting a three-pointer from downtown Franklin on Saturday in Memorial Gym, is that the role that makes the most sense for him, being more primarily just a three-point shooter, defender? What is the role that makes the most sense for him, that makes him his best within this Tennessee offense?
I think the role that makes him the best is being a guy out there. Like, what you got to understand is this ball is on the offensive end. This ball movement and body movement has been the same. Nothing has changed. Over all these years, nothing has changed. The difference is when it now touches him and he's got a hot hand, which is his role, like, he's going to go score. But he also will be selfless and turn down a shot to get the ball rotating again because of all the eyes that are on him. So I think it's a great job of watching film. I think it's a great job of believing in the coaching staff and exactly what they're trying to do, and him buying in and everybody else buying in, knowing that if you don't have to hunt shots, the ball's going to find you. You just need to be in the right place and conditioned well to be able to get to the spots. And I think that's more so what it is, Will. I don't think it's a situation where you got to say, hey, man, we need to get Dalton the ball right here, unless it's the last 4 minutes of the game. Then that's totally different. That's a luxury you haven't had to be able to say, all right, everybody move. Y'all go 1-4 flat, Dalton go get a bucket. And it's continuously happening. But in the flow of the game, There is no singling out and saying, hey, man, we need to try to get this happening. No, the ball movement, the body movement, selfless players will find where the ball needs to go to.
Savage, it's fascinating, man, watching how teams evolve and players define roles and how their own teammates define them too. With Meshack, it was said that he's the spark that lights everything on fire for this team, man, but he's coming off the bench, man. How did he define that role, and how important is it for teams to have those guys like him that's somewhat playing the back seat also because you don't want to interrupt the flow?
Listen, Savage, I'm telling you, man, that's a great spot to be in Meshack. You're relied upon. There's really no pressure on you because you get to go play free. And coming from a guy that's played that role, and it ain't nothing greater than that. When you jump up off that bench and the crowd go wild just because they know you're about to have an impact on the game and change the whole course of the game, not by scoring, but by being on the floor, offensively or defensively. I thrived in that role. And that's a part of it. You got to be able to buy into it and say, you know what, this is what they need from me, and I'm going to be able to sit there, analyze the game, and whatever's missing, hustle, rebounding, taking charge, getting some buckets on the inside, pushing the pace, I get to change that. And they got to have somebody come in to match my energy. There's no way. If you look to the other bench in any of these games, any of the guys that they're going to play, name somebody that you feel in the SEC coming off the bench that can match Meshack's impact or energy. It's going to be difficult to do. So that right there is carving out a niche for you and being noticed. I did the same thing, Savage, and was a 6 or 7 man off the bench and made third team All SEC as a sophomore. So you just got to buy into your role. It's easy to do. This is playing like 19 minutes, and I don't think Meshack is far off. Probably playing 19, 20 minutes a game. And there it is right there. You just got to buy into it. Your teammates believe in you. And, boy, you think just as much as Dalton Connect got control of the crowd, Meshack he got just as much. It's a guarantee. You just got to buy in like he's doing.
Does this feel different, Slay, from some of these teams that Rick Barnes has had in the past and some really talented teams, just having a one-piece like Connect that can really kind of push you to the next level? Can you feel anything different this time of year? I know there's still a lot of basketball to be played, but just in terms of comparing it to some other teams.
Yeah, you have to. When you start talking about National Player of the Year and competition, you can go down the list of the top 25 teams and kind of just poke out and see the guys that are separating themselves and make the game totally different. You look at UConn, they've got one. Purdue, of course, has Edie. North Carolina, who's third, they have R.J. Davis. Houston has Seed. Tennessee Connect. Wisconsin is more of a team effort, but man, don't that victory look good early in the year? Duke has Roach and Filipowski. Kansas has MacArthur's and McHunter Dickerson. So yeah, you need these people to be able to separate, and you can't forget Kentucky and Auburn. You know what I mean? As much as we talk about all these talented freshmen, Antonio Reeves is right there too, knocking on the door. You know, he's knocking on the door for SEC Player of the Year as well. Auburn, the same thing with Janai Broome, Jalen Williams, more of a collective effort. But man, that's the difference. So you got to have somebody to tilt the scale. And once you get into tournament play, all those other pieces fit in. I think that's the most interesting thing about Tennessee, Taylor. You look at it, they're not even at their peak.
Right.
I think that's the scariest thing about them, because you look at Auburn and you're almost like, whoa, did Auburn already peak? And they just trying to manage through the season now? Because what can you add to Auburn to make them much better? You know what I'm saying? The same thing for Alabama. Alabama, once they start making shots, now you see them at the top of the league. They're number one in the league right now. But look at Tennessee, it's the same thing. You still have the door open for Toba to make impact. You have Gainey finally making shots off the bench. You wait till Josiah gets going. Santi, when he's really rolled. Like, you got still all these pieces to come together, and you're still able to go and get wins. That's a dangerous thing.
Wow. Yeah. Slay, Austin Price had an interesting thing to say about Rick Barnes' future early in the show. If you've got a couple more minutes with us, I'm curious if you potentially agree with him if you're willing to stick around for one more segment.
Okay, let me see if I can find one of these sausage biscuits or something in here, man.
All right,
We'll teleport mine. I ate half.
Have my people talk to your people. And with that, we also say goodbye to Ramon Foster this morning, who is off to Senior Bowl practice. Enjoy
the sunshine.
Freaking bum. We'll see. It's kind of great. Hey man, like, come on.
Someone just posted
video.
It looked nice. Man,
I don't think we saw this on once down there last year, so you enjoy it this year.
No, I got on the long sleeve. We'll see how it works out.
All right. We will talk to Ramon tomorrow, and we will talk more Vols hoops with Ron Slay coming up next.
Guys, it's a new year, and Low T Center can make it a great one, okay? If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have noticed a lack of motivation and drive, have weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels, okay? At Low T Center, they can make it easy to get your levels checked. It's a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results back in 25 minutes. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office either. It's a concierge medicine for men. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone and have been exclusively treating men for years, with most health insurance accepted. And they have affordable and convenient treatment options, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that can ship directly to your home each month. So there's no need to drive to the center for a weekly visit. Right now at Low T Center, it's only $25 to get your T levels tested. Make your health and quality of life a priority and make it a great year. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Wrapping up the show on RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast, 104.5 The Zone. Will Bowling, Kayla Anderson with you. Ramon Foster on his way to Senior Bowl practice in Mobile.
Freaking bum.
Yeah, that's right. He'll be with us for most, if not all, the show again tomorrow.
Yes.
Same ritual throughout the week. Ron Slay with us now on the phone. Slay, Austin Price earlier this morning, we asked him about Rick Barnes' future, and let's face it, there are a lot of veterans on this team, maybe Tennessee's best chance at a Final Four in quite some time. And hypothetically, and yes, I'm probably speaking too many hypotheticals here, but if Tennessee were to make a run, would Rick Barnes be encouraged to hang it up after this season? He made the comment to us that with transfer rules and with no longer the need to grind as many difficult hours out on the recruiting trail for high schoolers, new rules might actually extend Rick Barnes' career in Knoxville. What do you make of that idea and just the energy around that program right now and how long Rick might want to stick around?
Yeah, I think why not? It's just all up to him and how he feels, his energy-wise. He's looking like he's dipped his toe into the fountain of youth when it comes to his spirit, you know what I'm saying, and his energy around these guys, and also keeping a young enough staff. You know, you got to have guys that are tapped into the grassroots program. I think it was a great job being able to restock the shelves with Justin Gainey, Jordan's father on the roster. He played at North Carolina State right before me, so still young in a sense, but is probably looking for that head coaching spot. But then you go on down the line. Rod Clark is a guy that has been always in the grassroots program. When you start to think about guys like Kennedy Chandler and guys coming there, and him being in touch with everything that happens on the grassroots level, and I'm talking about AAU, Bradley Beal, and people like that, he still stays in touch with these guys. So you have an ear to the ground and a guy that's still looking to climb. As long as you keep guys like that around you, I don't see why not. It could make it easier. And then, you know, the motto at Tennessee, we just need to get them on campus. And the way football and all of these things are happening, it kind of recruits itself. You start to get back in that mode. I know that's exactly where it was when I was in school. When I was getting recruited, you were coming off Lady Vols winning the national championship. You were talking about the football team thriving and winning national championships. It was like, why wouldn't I want to be here? So baseball and things like that, keeping the momentum going, I think it would be a little easier, you know what I'm saying? But you got to also have the guys willing to buy in and not what are they looking for? If you can answer that question, you'll be fine.
How rare is a personality like Dalton Connect? That's where my mind goes of like the way Tennessee recreates this, right? Because he's well documented said, look, I came here knowing I've got the offensive side down, but I want to work on my defense. He seems like, to me, Slay, and you've spoken with him, kind of a throwback personality that is a perfect fit for what Barnes wants.
Yeah, in a bit, that's a testament to, you know, how he was raised. You know, his pop stays on him. You know what I mean? I'm sure his mom is involved in the same text messages, like making sure he does what he's supposed to do. So it's easier to walk in front of a guy like Coach Barnes, knowing that you're going to be held to a standard. I think that is a bit of a throwback because guys like me and before me, you know, they want to be coached hard. You want to be pushed to the limit. You know, you want to be told what your deficiencies are and go out and work on them, and then have the opportunity to go out and show them and showcase them. So yeah, I think that's a good point. He is that kind of throwback guy, and we'll see if he can continue to keep on pushing like that because he's in the right place.
Real quick, I heard you and Babs talking about the best atmosphere. You clearly have stated Tennessee has an electric atmosphere. Hard to play on the road there. So you sticking with Tennessee on this one?
I am sticking with Tennessee on this one. I'm still saying they number one, KK. Anytime you go in the last 4 seasons, man, excluding the COVID season where fans were in the building, 51-5.
Dang.
Like that's tough, man. And then you're 10-1 against top 10 teams. So you're hitting it on both ends, you know. Auburn, and I'm telling you, Neville Arena, the Jungle, is second to none. No, I'm telling you right now, that's a special place. But, man, Thompson Bowl and Food City Center, man, is just as special. And anytime people walk in there, you're going to feel it. I would like to see, and a lot of SEC schools are doing it, bring a couple of more students down around the court somehow, some way.
Okay.
I think, man, what Georgia has done is phenomenal. LSU has done is phenomenal. Like, Mississippi State, putting players right behind the benches with the steel cage right there knocking on it. Like, that's a different atmosphere. Florida's already like that. So if it was a little tweak, that's the tweak I would ask. But outside of that, man, give me 19 to 20,000 every single time.
Dang. It's impressive.
Ron Slay, 3HL SEC Network superstar who graces us with his presence for 30 minutes every Tuesday. Slay, thank you.
Thanks, Slay.
No doubt.
There he is, Ron Slay with us this morning. That is the show. We are back at it tomorrow morning. Rhett Bryan will join us from Mobile. So will Ramon Foster for all 4 hours. Hope you will as well. We'll talk to you on Wednesday morning. The Buck Rising Show is next.